Hey everyone, I'm Travis Wright, and you're listening to I'm a Fan Of, your show for music, comedy, and more. As always, if you are a musician, a comedian, or just someone that does something interesting, please reach out to me on Instagram at TravisCanListen. You can find me on Facebook at I'm a Fan Of, or you can reach out to me through the website at I'mAFanOfPod.com. Of course, if you just enjoy the show, please follow me there as well, and like and subscribe to the podcast. This episode, we've got another hilarious stand-up comic, another one who's new to the game. Not new, but relatively new, working his way up, trying to find that path to success as a stand-up comic. Mr. Cody Swindell. I was fortunate enough to watch him over the past couple years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at open mics and some smaller shows. And then he moved down to Austin and was working on comedy down there as well. And I got to see him, or listen to him rather, on the Kill Tony show, have an amazing set on that. And every time I've seen a little clip or something of him, he's just getting funnier and better. And I think he's someone to keep an eye on in the comedy world. So now he's back in the DFW area, and I'm going to be spoiled again and get to watch him at shows and open mics and wherever else as he keeps getting better and improving and doing more shows. So I hope you enjoy him as much as I do. Not only is his comedy funny, but he is just a very interesting guy with a very unique backstory, like most people are, and he shares it with us. And that's all you really need to know about him. So please enjoy this interview with Cody Swindell. The I'm a Fan Of podcast, music, comedy, and more. Cody Swindell.
Hey,
what's up, dude?
Yeah.
Welcome. My wife and I, fresh off of watching you at Dallas Comedy Club.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife never knows anything about the people that I bring her to watch. I'm like, we're going to go watch these people. These are funny. We were going to check them out. And she was like, I like that guy, which is her highest praise. Because she will sit back, like legs crossed, arms crossed. Mm-hmm. She'll laugh a couple times, and that means like, oh, you're killing. Oh, nice. She's one of those audience members. But how's it going, man? How far into this comedy journey are you?
It's going good, man. I'm about 2.5. I know late February was when I started, so it's been a little over 2 years for me, coming up on like 2.5 years. Yeah.
2.5 years, okay. Because the first time I ever saw you was at one of the Mad Hatter open mics.
Oh man!
So how long ago was that? I was trying to get my timeline down because it's one of the reasons I always encourage people to go to open mics, because you don't know who's going to stick with it after 6-7 months, you know?
Right.
So I got to see some of your material that you did at the show, like in its really early stages.
Oh, okay.
And it was fun to go like, oh man, that guy, I heard that when it was like kind of rough still, and he smoothed it out. But was that like right at the beginning?
It was definitely rough if you heard it at Mad Hatter. But I don't think I've been there, and I was in Austin the past year, and I think I was at Mad Hatter. It had been the year before that. So
it was when Philip Garcia was running it.
Oh man!
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that would have been before he went to Austin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of my favorite open mics, though.
It's fun.
It gets loose over there.
It's so tight. Yeah.
Well, and I was only going when Philip ran it. I haven't got to get out there in a while, but it was like the perfect balance of like, it's a mic, we need to keep this on the rails, but also everybody's getting kind of fucked up and having a good time.
Yeah. There's usually that one little table up at the front, and there's people right there. They're pretty easy to entertain, and the people right behind them at the bar are pretty easy to lose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and like as the night goes on, the back of the bar just gets rowdier.
Yeah.
Rowdier.
Like the volume starts going up slowly but surely. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I feel like I've like had a little treat getting to watch you from back then. And then I think I've seen, I don't know if you've been posting clips, or I think I caught you at another mic. Did you do maybe Mana's like at Twilight Lounge or something over there maybe at some point?
I
saw you somewhere else, but I couldn't remember where it was.
I did like that mic a lot. So I've hit that one a few times in the past few months when I was visiting back and forth from Dallas and we were looking to move back from apartment. So,
it might have been that thing, because I feel like I got this nice little... Like, there's a couple jokes in particular that I'm not going to step on, but they were the ones you did on Kill Tony.
Oh, gotcha.
And I love that joke. Absolutely love it. And so I got to hear you do it, I think, at an open mic, and then it got a little better at another open mic, and then I think I saw you, like, post a clip or something with it, and then I saw your Kill Tony set, and I was like, damn, he's just getting better and better and better.
Yeah, thanks.
Does it feel like you're improving, or does it feel just as rough as when you started?
So it's been, like, 2.5 years, and I felt like I really was growing that first year. Like, I feel like I did a good job of hitting the ground running when I was here in Dallas. And then when I moved to Austin for this past year, I didn't move for comedy. We moved. My wife got a job and everything, so we took off real quick. But I was excited to be down there. We've lived down there before, and once I got down there, we had some obstacles or whatever being down there outside of comedy and stuff, just getting back on our feet after the pandemic and new jobs and all that personal stuff going on. But I felt like I was more treading water down there. And I still didn't really have. I was a year in when I moved down, so I still didn't know what I was doing with comedy. I had a cute little set that I kind of liked working, and when I was down there, I think I caught myself maybe trying to impress people to get booked instead of just focusing on getting better. I was trying to see if I could not lose that momentum I had here in Dallas, and I think that was the wrong way to look at it.
I'm very intrigued by that comedy scene because it's like we all know the locals from here that have gone down there and they're hustling and doing pretty well, but they also had like a little bit of an in. Like, I'm not saying they had anything handed to them, but like guys like Tony Casillas, for instance, it's like they were kind of working with some people that were in Austin already before they went down there. So I think they had a couple ins.
Yeah.
That whereas if you just move down and you really don't know anybody, it seems like it would still be a difficult scene to start in. Because even though Rogan and them have moved down there and opened a club, it's like, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like there's this giant tier you have to jump.
Yes.
That there's not really a couple steps.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It seemed like a very big open mic scene. And I've been telling people here that I feel like DFW has a better open mic scene because there's a little bit clearer objectives. Like, there's, first of all, there were more clubs here. And I was down there. I just moved back to DFW a couple weeks ago. But that year that I was down there, I feel like it was probably the worst year because it was still really saturated with comics coming from everywhere else. But the three of the biggest clubs weren't open yet in Cap City and Joe's Club and Sunset Strip.
Okay.
So it was a lot of comics for competing for just outside bar mics and stuff like that.
Had Brian Redband's club opened yet?
Not yet. I mean, it was, it did open this year. I was down there for the last few months at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I hung out there a little bit before I got back.
Yeah, like I think overall it's going to be great, obviously. But it seems like you're in the Wild West down there because there's no set plan of how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, what was your favorite part, though, about performing comedy? There had to be some silver linings in it.
Oh, for sure. I think my favorite part was every time I would come back to Dallas, I felt like I was a lot more comfortable being here. So I didn't notice any progress while I was down there. But when I would make that trip back up, it felt like then I would notice, okay, maybe I've been having some trouble writing and smoothing out new stuff, but at least I'm a little bit more comfortable on stage here to do what I've been doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's good to get away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize you grow a little bit.
And it's still one of my biggest problems is I feel like I'm maybe a little bit better at writing joke structure stuff than stage presence type stuff. And I want to be a little bit more loose on stage, not get so shell-shocked so easily and thrown off my set. You know what I mean?
Do you get thrown off your set pretty easily right now?
I think like...
you look pretty collected when you're up there, if that helps you at all.
I appreciate it.
It never looks like you're stumbling or something caught you off guard.
I get that a lot, and I get people saying... People think I'm very mellow and chill. I think I'm very uptight, and I want to be chill. Like that's my goal.
Dude, I relate to that so much.
That's what it is. You're seeing what I'm trying to do. Like that's.
Dude, my favorite comic. I think there are people that are better comics, but my favorite comic for me is Bill Burr, and it's because I relate to that stressed out attitude so much. Like especially his early days, like before he was rich and happy with a family and a kid. It's like he would just get angry over the smallest thing and turn that into something that ruins his whole day.
Right.
And that's me. But it's like when people see you on the podcast or talk to you in person, they're like, you seem so happy and nice. And it's like, just watch me road rage one time and you'll see the real me, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I totally get that, like stressing out, but then trying to play it like you're mellow.
Yeah.
But what made you decide you want to be more like mellow and cool? Was that like a conscious thing, or you just kind of drifted into that, or?
I think I'm just trying. I think that's literally just me trying to settle down. I can't go big energy because then I'm gonna get frazzled. I'll feel disingenuous. A couple times I've had to follow a host that has real big energy and stuff, and that's a lot of time what the host job is or whatever. But sometimes I noticed early on that if I try to match that energy, I feel how disingenuous I feel, you know what I mean? And it doesn't last when I try to manufacture that energy, so I just got to kind of stay in my own pocket.
It's a smart lane.
From there.
I've watched Emily Griefer do that a bunch of times because she's got a slow pace too.
Yeah.
And I've watched her follow someone who's just got crazy. Do you know Angelia Walker?
Yeah, she's great.
It's like, dude, she's, I mean, she comes in, she kills it. She's so high energy, right? And then somebody like Emily will come in right after her. Right. And it's like, if she, like you said, if she tried to match that, I'd be like, this is really odd. This is strange. Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever try to match it?
I don't know if you remember that Kenan Thompson Presents thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I tried a little bit there. I was trying to be, especially because it was a short set too, especially in a short set. I don't really want to get up there and just bum you out for 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's the moment that's kind of stuck in my head, that I was trying to be happier.
Is that all it was? Was it a 3-minute set?
It might have been 4, but it was
not long
pretty.
though.
It was pretty tight. They were telling us that there were. I think it was 3 in most places, and they gave DFW 4 for some reason.
I just saw everyone, having their shot at that. What exactly was it though?
I couldn't tell you.
So like you just came up and performed, and y'all were hoping like you would get selected, or it would be showed somewhere, or what was the process?
It was phrased as not a competition, but as an audition. But it said it. From what I understood of it, is it seemed like there wasn't really super clear opportunities, because they kept saying there's not necessarily a winner, but they're looking for somebody that can bring to New York. And they did have people in the past that you would call the winner that advanced and made it all the way to New York or whatever it was.
So it's just their way of like scoping everybody out.
Yeah, I think
so.
so.
And then he still gets his name out there. And,
right. You get a quick tape sent into them, and they judge that real quick.
That's interesting. I mean, on one hand, that's really good that you're giving somebody exposure and opportunity.
Yeah.
But also like 3 to 5 minutes is not a lot of time.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of time to get to know somebody. Like that's been the biggest thing I've noticed just from watching y'all is, like watching you at open mics, it was probably a similar like 5, maybe 7 minutes that I got to watch you in the past, right? And then on the DCC show, I think you did 15? Maybe closer to 20.
Yeah, that was 15 there.
Yeah, and it's like, man, it's like I feel like I got to know you so much more with just 15 minutes.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? Like all the stuff you were talking about, the way you were raised, didn't know you were in the Air Force, right?
Oh, yeah,
just little tidbits like that. And then, God, there was something else you were talking about. I cannot remember. Anyway, you should go watch his show. But I felt like, that type of set, I leave out of there going like, man, I think I know this guy.
That's cool. Yeah.
I feel like we grew up in the same white trash town, by the way.
Oh, cool.
But then you said you're from South Dallas?
I grew up in Balch Springs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I grew up northeast, and it was like a small country town. We lived next to Lake Lavon. Mm-hmm. But I always say, like, it wasn't country like horses and cows. It was like lake trash meth town.
Gotcha.
So when you're talking about poor and your quote, privileged friends, like I'm not going to step all over your bit, but what was the level of poor that you would say you were in? I love talking to people about growing up poor, because we did, and it's like you don't know you're poor until you're older.
Yeah, people are like, even after the Kill Tony set, Tony Hinchcliffe was like, so how poor are we talking? And I was like, just poor enough to be jealous. Like, I never had any problems. I never had, like, we weren't like deprived or anything. My family was.
That's why I say we always had food. We always had shelter and clothes. We just didn't have anything after that, really.
Right.
And so you didn't know that there was no money. And then you learned like other people went on vacations and stuff.
Right. That's what it was. We went on a vacation to Dollywood, and that was
Dollywood. How old were you for that?
I
was that like middle
12
school?
or 13.
Okay. Dude, what's it like being a middle schooler going to Dollywood?
It was memorable because, man, I had bunk beds growing up, and I fell the day before we went to Dollywood. We had a computer desk right by where my head was. I fell off, somehow smashed my groin on the corner of the computer desk and broke it off.
Broke your groin off?
No, yeah, exactly. Broke like the edge of the computer desk, smashed. I don't know. I must have been having a nightmare, so I don't know what was going on. And
could you
woke
imagine?
Up and,
like, I'm just thinking of you in the middle of a nightmare, and then you wake up to your groin being smashed. Like it's not getting any better.
Like trying to gather myself. Like I thought I was in trouble for something. Like it was weird.
So you were in the top bunk?
Yeah, fell and split my legs on the corner, and had to like get my dad to like make sure I didn't scrape my balls too bad.
Oh my God!
We drove to Dollywood in his drove to Tennessee in his pickup the next day.
Yeah.
So it was a rough ride.
He was a country music fan, or both your parents?
My dad was mostly a radio off fan, but when he listened to music, it was country. So
radio off?
Yeah.
That's crazy stuff. So you just drive around, no music?
Yeah, just silence.
Dude, I can't imagine. Everywhere we went when I was young, it was music nonstop. I think that's why I have such a big love for it.
I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music till like I got out of high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so religious family?
My mom brought us to church. My dad never went to church, so it was like that kind of dynamic. But it was like,
I think we're gonna have that dynamic in my family because my wife,
Really?
my wife. I mean, she's not like crazy religious, but she believes in a higher power, and she's debating really hard. Like with our 3-year-old, she's like, I don't know if I want to take him to church or not.
I guess.
And I'm one of those where I'm like, I don't mind if people have religion, But if you start asking me a bunch of questions, I'm like, well, you do know that it's all been corrupted. It's all been manipulated. I'm that guy, right?
Yeah.
And so we were kind of talking about it. And I think where we landed was, if you want to take them, go ahead. But if he asks me questions, he's going to get different answers than if he asks you. Right. And we're just going to have to let him sort it out, I guess.
Right. Honesty's the only way you can go, I feel
because
like.
I'll be pretty quick to be like, I don't know, that sounds like some bullshit. But I mean, I like a lot of the aspects of it. Like, I don't think there's any problem with believing in something higher. It's just like all the little man-made components,
I think
I could definitely identify with your dad not wanting to go.
Yeah, there's a lot to be weary of. I mean, that's obvious.
Dude, all these televangelists, right? Your Joel Osteens and stuff, just ripping people off left and right.
There's a church I went to as a kid in Sigaville that was charging after we left. It might have been under new management, but that building, that church, physical church that we went to, whoever was running it now, maybe a decade ago, they were charging people for prayers and stuff like that.
Charging for prayers.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it, man.
Set that place on fire, you know what I mean? I mean, it's literally. But,
I get so angry about that, but people are spending the money.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you can't see it at that point, do I really get mad at the preacher?
Right.
I mean, God, he's, but anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But tell me more about your dad. This no radio, didn't go to church. He sounds like a pretty interesting dude.
Yeah, he passed away a few years ago. I was talking about that on Kill Tony and stuff. And Brian Holtzman was like, yeah, real fun stuff. Bring up your dead dad. And I was like, all right. Got me on that.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple jokes referencing him and stuff. And he was a big part of my upbringing, obviously. Like,
you said he passed away from cancer, and he had like 5 different cancers?
Had lymphoma. He had testicular cancer. He had a lot of stuff going on.
What was the final one?
I believe it was a form of lymphoma.
Lymphoma.
But he had a couple different things going on at that point.
Do y'all have cancer in your family?
Yeah, both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah, it's pretty prevalent.
Because was he heavy drinker, smoker, anything like that?
No, he hardly ever drank. Never smoked. He would dip Copenhagen occasionally, and that's where I got some jokes out of that too. So he was a big Copenhagen guy for a long time. He quit for a long time when I was born, and then got back into it and quit again. So it was one of those tough habits for him.
What do you do for a living?
He worked at Yellow Freight. Yeah, he was.
I don't know what Yellow Freight is. Is it just a freight company? Was he like a truck driver?
He wasn't a truck driver. He was a hostler. I don't even know what that means.
A hostler?
Yeah.
Dude, that sounds like such a fucking cool title.
He
just came home from a long day of hostling.
Something about shuffling the trucks in the yard or something.
Okay, so he worked. So it's not like he was working anywhere where there's like a big cancer risk or anything like that either. He's just working a job,
Yeah,
I mean, breathing in some diesel fumes? Like, it couldn't be that bad.
He worked nights my whole life, and I feel like that is
nights
a big stress contributor.
Nights is a legitimate, I'm not making this up. It is a legitimate health risk. It's a carcinogen.
I believe that.
Yeah, they have actual studies and data, because I had jobs in the past where I was doing deep night shifts, like as extra money, like trying to make that time and a half and stuff. And then I read that and I was like, shit, I got to get off this. I'm not going to do it. But something about the lack of sleep and flipping your circadian rhythm is a cancer risk.
Yeah, it's not natural. I worked it for a while too, and you could tell that it just throws you off. And even when you're operating during the day, you feel like a vampire.
Well, if you think about it, like all these years of evolution, all the cells and everything in your body, we're accustomed to, like, when the sun comes up, we're going to start the day.
Yeah.
And when it sets, we're going to release other chemicals that shut you down.
Right.
Like billions of years of evolution, and we're just like, yeah, but it's time and a half, man.
Yeah.
And so I totally buy that it screws you up. How long do you think he worked deep nights? Was it most of his life, or was it just a long time?
Yeah, most of it, at least 30 years.
I wonder if that was it.
He was stressed out a lot, but he had a lot of stressors. Yeah.
What was he stressed about? Just normal money, family stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, he had cancer several times. So it was, my sister had it as well. She had a brain tumor when I was growing up in high school.
Wow.
So it was, every time something would let up, something would come back. You know what I mean?
And your sister was able to beat having a brain tumor?
She did. She still has to have occasional surgeries and stuff like that. So
it wants to grow a little bit back or something, or what?
Just complications with like she's had some surgeries on her scalp and stuff like that, like some maintenance stuff. She actually is getting over breast cancer right now. So that was a while back.
What's going on with your family, man? What do y'all live next to something weird, or
we just won't wake up during the day, dude? Everybody's just working nights.
Was she working nights too?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, do y'all live next to like a weird creek or anything that you can think of?
We've had the same house growing up my parents bought right there in Balch Springs, and it's like in front of a cow field. Like it's not, unless those cows are mutants or something. I think it should be a pretty normal
Have y'all
place.
sat down and talked about it as a family? Like, this is weird. We got a lot of cancer in our family, or
Not really. My grandparents and stuff that had it, you could chalk it up to smoking and drinking, stuff like that.
sure.
But it is very prevalent. So
That's
it
crazy.
seems odd. Yeah.
Man, and like, I really feel like we're a few, like maybe not years, maybe like a decade or two away from this gene editing stuff that they're working on, where we're
Yeah.
going to be able to fix these types of things very quickly.
Or at least something better than chemo and
Yeah.
radiation and all that.
Yeah, and it's like as good as that stuff has gotten, like
Mm-hmm.
chemo now is definitely better than what it was like 30 years ago.
right.
But it's still horrible. You know,
Yeah.
nobody wants to go through that. And, you know, you are just injecting poison. It's like just, we just figured out the dose, you know, to make it as good as possible now.
Right.
But
Right.
it's going to be weird where, like, you know, somebody like yourself has a loved one, you know, that passed away. And then like 6 months later, we're like, we figured it out. We can save everyone now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where this
yeah.
is going to be like a thing of the past, and people are just like, "Oh my god!" Like they could have just got the shot. You
Like
know?
weed laws, everybody in jail is gonna be like, "Y'all, now it's legal." Like,
Dude, can you imagine how pissed you got to be if you're serving time right now for weed,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, like I can get on my phone app and invest in weed stocks.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Like
I
it's a
can
joke.
make, like I can make money. I'm a legal dealer in a sense. Like I'm not selling it, but I can invest in this company, and you're sitting in prison for it.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah,
Pretty trippy.
did y'all? I'm sorry, I'm fixed on the cancer thing for a moment. But did y'all talk to any of the physicians about like what's the deal with all us having so much cancer in our family? Or
Not really. I remember as a kid, one of the doctors, like when I was in high school, he was like, "You need to make sure you're checking your testicles for lumps because cancer comes." I think I had a joke about it. I was like 13, and I was like, "You don't have to tell me as a 13-year-old to check my balls." Like, that's not. Anyway.
and check.
But it has been something that doctors have brought up. So,
What was the first diagnosis that he had? What was the first cancer?
I think it was testicular.
Testicular?
I think that was
Yeah.
the first one. Yeah.
So do you stay on top of everything now? Like, sorry, no pun intended, but like, are you constantly thinking about this and seeing doctors and checking on it? Or
No, I don't like going to the doctor. I use the VA, and they take blood every time, so I
Yeah.
avoid it as much as I can. Last time they took blood, I had the thing hanging out of my arm for like an hour, and then by the time I get to the back, they're like, "We actually didn't need this," and I was like, "Come on, dude."
So when you
You're
come in the door, they
messing
just
with
put
me.
it in there. They're like, we'll just get blood just in case.
Yeah,
Like,
that is a thing that they were like, "You got to do that every time." I didn't know if that was
Interesting.
every doctor or just the VA. I've been
I don't know. I haven't been to enough doctor's visits for that, but.
yeah.
But I mean, what would you even do though? Like, other than like a check, like you were talking about, like just feeling around on there for a lump. I mean, I guess you could draw labs every year and just make sure you.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what kind of screenings there are
Yeah.
for it, but
I'm more, like, I get more anxious now. Now that we have a 3-year-old, like I
Oh,
would
I bet.
constantly be thinking about like I got to make sure there's something that's not killing me.
yeah,
But you guys are married, no kids though, right?
yeah, no kids,
No kids. Yeah. But I mean, I guess you're probably going to be better off. Like you're going to have less stress than me because you're not going to be stressing out thinking about it.
Right now, at least, but we've been talking about having kids too. So my health is definitely a thing, and I've been getting worn out because I'm not taking care of myself while I'm doing comedy. It's a very hectic lifestyle to try to pin down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
How old are you now?
31.
31?
Yeah, yeah. I started late too. Got it in right before I turned 30. So
What do you mean?
I feel guilty constantly for starting comedy so late.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you
yeah.
meant getting married late or something like that. I
Oh
was
no,
like,
no, no.
Okay.
That was the right time.
I think it's good. I mean, there's really funny young people, but I do think it's good. We just watched, my wife and I just watched Nate Bargatze's special. Have you seen
Yeah.
his latest one?
Of course. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I always knew he was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I guess I'd really seen for a long time were clips or like short sets, maybe like a late night set or something.
Right.
I hadn't seen a full hour of him. I think he's my second favorite comic ever now.
He's great.
I connected with that material so much last night. And a lot of it's probably just because I'm 38. He's like 43 or something. So we're similar in age. So like a lot of the childhood stuff he was talking about was hitting home with me pretty hard.
Right. Right.
You know, like growing up in the 90s and all that. And but there's something about watching comedy, like not to shit on the guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. Just as an example, like Matt Rife, super in the spotlight right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The really good-looking comic that everybody's talking about.
I haven't seen much of his actual comedy.
There's nothing
but
wrong
I know
with it.
who he is.
Nothing wrong with it. He's a funny guy. But And like, I don't care that he's using his looks. I think use what you got, man. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
go
fair
for it.
that you're funny and good looking. That's not fair, but whatever.
Yeah.
But his comedy just doesn't hit with me because we're in two different worlds. He's younger than me. He's more attractive than me. Like his life experience is so much different than mine.
Right.
Whereas Nate's, it's like, you're a pretty average dude. I feel like you grew up similarly to me, and then he's at a maturity level that I can understand. So I think there's a lot of benefits. Like you definitely see the world. He's going to look at the world so much more differently than Matt will until another like 10 years go by.
Right. He can really get to, or you can really be at the core of his fan base. Like,
yeah, I think so. So I don't think there's like a right or wrong age. I think it's just, who you're going to appeal to.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, even when I was younger, though, older comics just seem to be way funnier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you ever hang around like did your dad have any do you have any uncles or anybody who's just fucking hilarious? Like they're just cutting up all the time?
Not really. I think my dad tried to keep me away from a lot of my family is what he said.
Oh, really?
He was telling me some wild. My granddad apparently like ran moonshine for a while.
Holy
and
shit.
Stuff like that. So he said he like got his pilot's license just to run moonshine more efficiently. I was like,
Where
that's pretty
they're not
cool
from
move.
Texas originally, then, right?
I believe so. I know I had family like come from Tennessee or something like that.
So they were
but
moonshining out of
yeah.
Texas, probably.
I would assume so. I think out in East Texas. Yeah.
Dude, you got to dive deeper into those stories and figure that out.
Somebody said we were related to like Jesse James or something like that. I thought that was cool at first, and I was like, "Oh, that guy's kind of an asshole." Isn't he? I don't know if I want to look into that.
But you know what? The further you go back, everyone was kind of an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like most of the original Americans are all descendants of people who wanted to flee from they were all rebellious natured people, right?
Right.
Like you don't get on a ship and go across the ocean unless you got a little bit of a wild hair in you.
Yeah.
So I can see us all just having some assholes in our family.
I do
So
like
we go
thinking
back.
that. I like thinking that my family is full of wild men. That's an entertaining thing.
I mean, if you got a pilot's license and ran moonshine, that's pretty fucking,
Yeah.
And then like your dad, that's a pretty badass, like blue collar tough guy job. Like, yeah, he's fucking, what was it called again? The H word?
Hostler.
Hostler.
I
He's
think
on there
so,
hostling
yeah.
deep nights, making money.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
That's
Still to this
crazy.
day, yeah.
What convinced you to go to the Air Force?
Man, I was 21, or I was 20 when I decided to join. Didn't get it going. Didn't get in and get started till I was 21. But I just was in community college out at Eastfield and didn't have anything else going on. And I was like, I can either keep trying to figure it out for 4 years or have something to do after 4 years. My beard wasn't growing in, so I might as well have to shave for a few more years.
What year would that have been? That was about 10 years ago? 2013?
Yeah, I went in.
Was there a war going on when you signed up? They were probably still just always in the Middle East, right?
I think it was, but I don't know how they designated it. I'm not super gung-ho with the military stuff.
Sure.
I'm not super well versed with it, but I think we might have been at war, but we weren't really at wartime.
What was the biggest... I'm always fascinated by people that go to the military because like in high school and shortly after, it's like I was all about like punk rock music and I was very like questioning of authority and hated all this kind of military shit going on. And then especially like the, the George Bush days and like the war on Afghanistan and all that, mission accomplished bullshit. And it's like I was very anti all of that.
Yeah.
And so I've always thought, like if it was like World War II and I felt like people were being really wronged and like I could affect it, then I would want to jump in, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was probably the last big war that wasn't like now we know a lot of wars are about like oil and shit, right? So, it's hard to like,
Why are we really in it?
Yeah. And so as a 21-year-old, I'm fascinated of what the point was where you're like, yeah, this seems like a great idea. I'm going to do this.
It seemed like better than all my other options. I was installing fire alarms and stuff like that, but it still wasn't anything I was super confident in. I lost a lot of confidence once I got in.
Who told you about it? Or
my brother was in
a
while back, and I never thought I knew I never wanted to be like a cop or in the military or anything like that. I never thought I would do anything like that, but and now that I've done it, I'm good to talk about it now. I never try to bring it up on stage because I feel like it makes me more uptight. I'm trying to not be.
Really?
I do. I feel like
what do you mean?
I think I think it doesn't aid my personality to know that I was in the air, even if it's the Air Force might be the only aspect of it that helps me out. At least I wasn't in the Marines or the Army or anything where people.
Like you think people are going to attach a personality to you?
Right, exactly. Even if it's not I think to some extent they will. You know what I mean? I just want to try to avoid that. I don't want people to think that I'm, because I keep to myself. I'm pretty reserved. Even out at Mike's, I'm like in my notebook usually putting a set list together, see even if I have any new stuff to work on or something like that. But so I'm always cautious about how I'm perceived, and I think that's a big part of. I think that got driven in worse when I was in the military, because that's a big part of. If you're perceived as wrong, you are wrong. It's not like.
Interesting.
You gotta watch yourself, you know.
You just do 4 years with them? Is that what you did?
Yeah, just 4 years. I was either doing the minimum.
I
maximum.
didn't mean it like just, but you know.
No,
what I mean.
no. yeah. Totally.
I get that, because when I was younger and more ignorant, I 100% would have attached something like that to you.
Yeah,
you know,
I still do. I feel
you know,
a certain way about myself.
I've just been lucky now. I've met so many different people that went into the military that I would not have expected. Like there was a lot of people that I knew through different jobs and stuff where you're like, oh, you were in the military in different branches, and it's like, oh yeah, you're like a normal person that I get along with. It's like, yeah, they're just people.
There's so many guys in comedy and probably comedy in general, but comedy and DFW that were surprisingly in the military.
Oh yeah,
it's
I mean, like,
comes up.
you know, Paul Smith was just on here, and he's in there. And then, man, one of my favorite guys to talk to about it, because he's just such a unique character, is John Brown.
Yeah, he's great.
Dude.
I get confused for him a lot. Yeah.
Oh, really? I can see a little bit.
And
Probably just because y'all
John
both
Moore.
wear hats.
Yeah.
And generic white guy with hats.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating guy. It's fascinating for me to think that he did well in a military lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even just his text messaging can be chaotic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's a wild dude.
But then, like, did you ever see his silver car that, I forgot what it is. It's like a 1980s.
LeBaron?
Yeah. Did he ever show that to you? I don't know how much y'all know each other, but he was so meticulous with cleaning that fucking thing up. I was like, oh, you're a little scatterbrained, but like you can get shit done when you want to. It's like, and that's where I saw his ability to focus. And I was like, oh, if he cares about it, he's all in 100% on it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, okay, so you probably could do really well in the military then, as long as you give a shit a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it's the crew chief mind showing there. And everything.
Yeah. What was your job?
It was called Age Aerospace Ground Equipment. So I worked on generators and stuff that John Brown would have used. The crew chiefs used the equipment I worked on.
Oh, okay. What's a job like that? And what was your experience in the Air Force like with that job? Is that like this is all right, it's pretty chill, or like, I hate this fucking job?
I hated it. I think I looked like I would like it because of my hat. It's you know what I mean? Like I have jokes about that, like about looking like I should give mechanical advice.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That's the material I couldn't think of, man. I loved that.
Oh,
yeah. That was great stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a handyman, so I gotta make material out of it.
But you were working on the generators?
Yeah, the government made me. Yeah, it was.
How tough was it to learn how to work on them when you're not handy?
It was actually really easy because it's unlike anything else, I'm sure. You have what they call a TO, a technical order, and you pull up. Ours were laptops at the time, like these tough books, and you pull it up, and you literally have to have it open on the step that you're doing. You have to do everything slow. So it's like every step you have to read a sentence. Like occasionally QA would come by, and if they check you on your stuff, you have to tell them the step you're on. So you have to, like, if you're changing
so your
filters,
step has to match, right? If they come by and your step on the screen is not what you're currently doing, you're getting in trouble.
Exactly.
Oh my
God. You got to start by washing your equipment, and then you bring it into work on, and
I get the need for that, but that also sounds crazy inefficient.
Oh yeah.
Right? But also, like, you don't want someone in a war to die because somebody skipped a step.
It's everything is controlled because you learn it in basic training too. They kind of beat it into your head. They're like, if a bolt is loose, people die. They like stress that out and everything. And to an extent, it's true and of course. But when you get in, everything's meticulous like that because if you lose a tool or something like that, there's there's little foam cutouts where it's very obvious at the end of the day that it's gone. We can't leave until it's found.
Oh, shit.
So that's like could be anywhere. If it's in a piece of equipment, if it's on the flight line somewhere, but if it's on the flight line, that's a big problem. So that's why you got to know where everything's at. You know, you don't want something getting sucked up into an engine, a tool or anything like that.
How often did y'all have to sit there and look for shit?
Man, when I got there, it was a lot. So I was like, man, this military thing is gonna be hell.
Was it because of you a lot or just in general?
No.
Oh, okay.
Usually, and what's unfortunate, it would be the guys that busted their ass the hardest that we would be having to stay late for, and it was because they took on so many projects trying to trying to be not teachers, not trying to show off, not trying to be teacher's pet, but they gave
just
a
wanted
shit.
to do a good job.
Yeah, they cared
get a lot of work done.
Yeah, and a lot of times it would be those guys, and you would feel for them because at the same time you're like, damn man, I'm not gonna get home till an hour later, and you don't get paid any extra for this stuff, so you're just beating yourself up. Like, what can we do to find this impossible to find thing? And that he hates himself while he's looking for it too. So yeah, I noticed that though. A lot of times it would be the guys that really bust their ass the most that end up getting blamed for.
I'm 100% that way. I'll do projects around the house or something.
Yeah.
And I'll, if I can get 3 projects done, I'll try to get 3.5 or 4 done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then inevitably, like, just the other day, I bought these new like Bose, pods for your ears, listen to music while, it's I need music, podcast or something while I'm getting this work done.
Right.
But then, like, when my wife and son get home, they'll come out in the backyard. And I think I was just doing yard work. And so I'll take them out and set them down somewhere, because he's going to be talking to me every 3 seconds about, like, look at this bubble, there's a butterfly, and just distracting me. And it's like, then before you know it, it's like, I've lost the earbuds, I've lost my gloves, I don't know where that other thing is. It's like, fuck. And then, like, 6 hours later, my son's like, are these yours? And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. What did you lose that you remember?
I remember one time, this actually wasn't me losing it, but the funniest thing was there's a guy that it's his job to check out tools. And there was like a contractor that came in or something like that, and he needed to borrow a flashlight. So we just handed him a flashlight. And he was messing around in the ceiling later or whatever. He ended up leaving the flashlight in the ceiling. So when we were out and everything...
in the ceiling of just the room?
Of the office you check out tools in.
What the fuck was he doing in the ceiling?
I forget. It was one of those
Yeah.
I forget what he was doing up there, but he needed a flashlight. Maybe it was something electrical or whatever.
Oh, so he wasn't with y'all working on generators. He was doing something totally different and just borrowed your flashlight.
Yeah, so it wasn't a dude from our shop. So we were sitting there blaming, like, who from our shop was like, who was the douchebag that left a tool somewhere, like figuring out who to blame. And it was a guy
I know it didn't go down
this.
I know it didn't go down this way, but I just picture, like, everybody lined up and somebody's taking the lead and just like, somebody better fucking come clean. Like,
that's what it is a lot. Who was somebody usually was out somewhere where they weren't really supposed to be, like trying to do something real quick with a tool that wasn't supposed to be checked out of that box or whatever the case was. Yeah, it's usually somebody trying to do something real quick that gets caught up. But we ended up finding that flashlight in the ceiling and right above the guy checking out the tools. That was a pretty wild one.
Oh my God, dude, that's got to be like the biggest sigh of relief, but also like, what the fuck? The ceiling,
exactly.
The ceiling. Jeez,
there's a lot of those though. You feel like you're getting pranked at the end of the day when you end up finding the thing. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I don't miss. Yeah.
So at the end of the 4 years, did you know, like, I don't want to do this again, or were you thinking about it?
I think I knew before that. I knew pretty quick. The first job I had, I was supposed to be a biomedical equipment technician, so I was going to be working on hospital equipment, and that didn't pan out, and I'm very glad it didn't pan out. And I got washed out into that new job, and even though it wasn't a job I liked, I ended up loving it. But it still wasn't I loved it because of the people I worked with in the shop I was at. But it still wasn't it was something I knew I wasn't going to be doing because I knew I wasn't going to excel at that thing. And I'm looking for that thing I could be good at.
Well, that's always like the sales pitch, right? Is get a skill for the real world. But you didn't feel like you got that, or?
I feel like I did. I feel like it was pretty applicable. I feel like it made me. It maybe came in handy a little bit on this last move. My truck broke down 20 feet from the spot when I was leaving Austin.
Oh, my God.
Had to learn how to change my spark plugs in a HEB parking lot. So
But what did you do right when you got out of the Air Force?
Oh, I went to first I went to college down at Texas State, and me and my wife were bouncing back and forth between Austin and Dallas every year. And then I joined the elevator union, and I was on my way to joining that. I was in their apprenticeship program, and I quit about 10, 11 months in, right before I was actually joining the union.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
My dad's an elevator man.
No way.
Yeah. He, believe it or not, so he always had, I don't know what he did when I was, like, really, really little, but he worked for, like, Texas Instruments, but I don't know what it was. He doesn't have a college degree or anything.
I worked there right before I joined the elevator union.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
A little internship at TI in Richardson.
Well, he had some job. It was like he didn't need a degree or anything for it, obviously. He just has a high school diploma. And then when we were going to school, he worked out the numbers somehow. I don't remember what it was, but rather than get like keep a job like that when we moved out to the country, he decided to get. He was a janitor at our school and a bus driver.
Gotcha.
Because the money washed out, I guess, and he's like, well, this is a lot easier. I'll get off, on time. See you guys. This kind of stuff. So he did that forever. And then after my parents got divorced, I guess he wanted to make more money. And he started in the elevator trade like maybe right at 40 or shortly after 40.
Mm-hmm.
So he started as like an apprentice grunt, like carrying tools for guys, half his age up all these steps and shit. But that's what he retired as.
Yeah.
And so he was in it for, what is that? You retire in your 60s? Yeah, so like almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a crazy trade.
It
was very eye-opening because elevators are one of those things you just take for granted. You don't think how
for sure
all that shit works.
How expensive it is to maintain.
Dude, and I didn't know how dangerous it was.
Yeah.
Like I think through his career, they were going, I don't know anything for sure, but just from what I heard him talking about, it sounded like they were going through maybe their safety revolution of like all these OSHA rules and like we got to get people stopping, dying and losing fingers and
right
all this kind of stuff because they were having like gnarly things happening in their industry, like people getting decapitated and stuff.
Yeah.
And, so why did you decide not to do it? Other than the decapitation reason I just gave you.
The whole experience was just nuts. I went to a tiny school growing up, and my best friend growing up, his dad was an elevator guy.
Uh-huh.
So I helped them out, kinda. I didn't know what I was doing. Just I followed him around for a little less than a year, maybe one summer, when I was like 19 or 20. And so I'd been in contact with him, and then when I got out, they have a great program to transfer military veterans into the Union.
Yeah.
You advance on the list because of your military experience. So it seemed like a pretty natural transition, and I had the mechanical skills from the Air Force to put down on paper. But once I got in, it just wasn't working out. I got kicked off the first job and kicked myself off the second job. So it was.
What did you do on the first job?
Oh man, I don't want to make myself sound innocent, but I asked a question. That's how it started. And he's like, "Man, you don't remember we just did this?" And I was like, "Man, that was my first elevator." I was like, I feel like I'm not asking too much. I'm just asking what's the first step."
Yeah.
And he goes, "All right, get off the elevator." So I was like, all right. So I got off, and he goes, "Don't be rolling your eyes either." And that got me.
Damn.
And I was like, "Don't tell me I'm rolling my fucking eyes at you and all this stuff." Like trying to get him to understand where I'm coming from. And he's like, "Well, get out of here then." So I laughed and got out of there.
Damn.
I was like, all right, man.
Yeah. I had the privilege of meeting a bunch of my dad's coworkers, like as we were growing up. And it's one of those fields, man. It's like any kind of trade work like that.
Yeah.
You got some characters working in there.
There's a lot of weird ego in there. And I knew that going in and I'm pretty mild mannered. So I'm not doing anything to challenge anybody. I'm just trying to get going, get learning.
Well, and there's a lot of people like that are weird and are incredibly skilled at their job, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people who are weird and fucking suck at their job.
Well, that's why I quit,
and
too.
it's hard to tell who's who.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things he would talk to me about. He didn't phrase it that way, of course, but it's like, man, you got to know, like when you're leaning your head over the side of this elevator, can you trust your coworker that they cut the power to the other elevators? Before, like, are you going to lean your head over and something else come up or go down?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, yeah, man, how much you really trust that guy?
That's why I got out. That first dude I worked with was an asshole, but he was a knowledgeable asshole.
Yeah.
So I was sticking with it, putting up with whatever. I didn't quit that one. He gave up on me. Mm-hmm. That second one, I quit because I did not trust being with that guy.
Dude,
he
scary
was a
stuff.
dumbass, and he wasn't in a good space mentally.
Uh-huh.
I was like, we went through it. He was I don't want to start just bashing strangers and stuff. It was like a wild experience where I'm still trying to get to know stuff, and we're standing on top of the elevator in an elevator shaft, and I'm trying to wire this thing for the first time on the side of the actual elevator shaft. So I'm standing on the top of the cab wiring this thing, and he's kind of I think monitoring me. Well, he was like a psycho about like Christian radio and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And some song came on. I was just telling buddies this last night. Some song came on where it said like "look up" or "look up to God" or whatever it said. And he's standing behind me. He grabs my face. I feel his fingers around my face and yanks my head back. And while it says "look up to God" or something, and I kind of brush him off and turn around, and I was like, "Don't do that!" Like what?
I'm working with electricity.
Just trying to say something as simple to the point. And that was all I said. And then when I got off at the end of the day, I called the boss. I was like, "I don't know what's up with this dude, but I don't know why he felt like that. Like, I don't trust working with this guy." And he essentially told me, "I can't keep switching mechanics." And I was like, I don't know what you think I'm asking you, but I'm not working with this guy.
Yeah.
I ended up just when I left the job, I explained to the higher up why I was leaving. I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. I don't think this is working out for me, stuff like that. And he was pretty understanding.
Yeah.
He even gave me the contact for I don't know if you know John Jones, JJ.
John Jones, like
Yeah.
local, like a comic.
Local comic.
Oh my gosh, which one does he go by? John Jones or JJ?
JJ. I believe he won. It was a contest I think it was at TK's.
He goes just by JJ.
Yeah. Sexiest comic in Dallas or something. It was for a big guy competition for comics around here that I think he won recently.
Hold on, I just gotta look it up because that name's so familiar.
Yeah. I would almost bet that you've seen him.
I'll have to look it up later. John Jones is apparently a super common name on Instagram.
But he, not the MMA fighter, but
Yeah.
But he gave me the contact for John Jones before I ever knew him. This random guy that was the boss of this elevator company gave me John Jones' contact and said he just went to his show the weekend before. Because he asked me, well, if you're not going to do this, what are you going to do? I said, go back to school. And this is way before I started mics or anything. But I said, I've always wanted to be a comedian. I don't know why I told this guy that.
Really?
That was so stupid to say, quitting a job. But it was on my mind, and I was already quitting. So I was like, I'll probably try this eventually, but that's not why I'm quitting.
How did this blue-collar tradesman look at you when you said comedy?
He was like, oh, okay. And he kind of assured me, he's like, I'm a regular guy like you. He's like, it's good to hear that you're going back to school. Education is everything. And he said, I actually went to this guy's show, and he gave me John's email. And I never emailed him. I wasn't going to reach out, having not been even at an open mic yet. But it was still a pretty cool thing. And even looking back now, I beat myself up a lot for that job not working out, even though it's so clear it wasn't going to work out. But even something like that, where even when I quit, the guy gave me a contact to do comedy. I don't want to start pointing to signs and everything, but it does give me a little bit of reassurance that it was a good decision.
It is weird how that stuff works, right?
Yeah.
You know, I used to fight it a lot when I was younger. It's like I used to try to force things.
Yeah.
Like I want to do this, I'm going to do that, and like make it happen. And I still do that to an extent, but I definitely have more of a like go with the flow. Like even on this show, like if somebody needs to change a date or cancel an interview for whatever, in my mind, I used to think if something like that came up, like, man, it's fucking bullshit. Like, we scheduled a thing, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just like, no problem, things happen. Because I know 3 weeks from now when we reschedule, I'm going to go, oh, that worked out really well that we did that.
Right.
Something's going to happen where I'm like, I've just learned to go with the flow a little more. Like, I'm not great at it, but you definitely start looking back and you're like, oh, yeah, if I didn't do that, this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. And I've kind of just been like, that's the most woo-woo I'll get, where I'm like, I kind of just let a little bit of the universe just take it.
Yeah.
And just run with it. Because what are the odds as you're walking off a job / getting fired, whatever they want to call it, that this guy's like, oh, here's a comedy dude.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah, it is. It is. You have to acknowledge it at some point.
Yeah. So was that when you started thinking about really doing it?
Yeah, I think right about then I was I signed up for a comedy class at DCH at the time. And I didn't end up finishing the class. I ended up actually getting on Kill Tony back then.
Yeah, I heard in your interview that was that your first time doing comedy or?
Yeah, so the first time I got on Kill Tony was the first time I actually did comedy out. So the first time I did Kill Tony was on a Thursday. That would have been my 4th week at the comedy class, but I didn't go to the class and went to Kill Tony instead.
Wow.
And got signed up for that. And then after I got on that, I was like, I'm gonna go back to school and like try to do it in Austin, and just never got started in Austin. Started doing open mics when I got moved back after a year.
So, but essentially, the Kill Tony thing was kind of your first real big stage experience. I mean, that's a huge crowd.
Yeah.
You said it was at the Plano Hyenas when that one was open?
Yeah. Which was a really cool one, too. It sucks it's closed.
Yeah. I went to watch Kill Tony live in Fort Worth when like Jeremiah Watkins was still, when they still had the band. Before they moved to Austin. And we signed up, not, like I don't do comedy. We just signed up as like drunk guys who all secretly practiced a minute and were thinking about it. And then when we had beers beforehand, it was like, I'll sign up if you sign up.
Yeah.
And it was a terrifying experience. Once you see a sold out room and you realize like, I'm not funny.
None of y'all got called up?
Oh, thank God. No, we didn't.
Man.
But what was terrifying is at the time they were in LA, doing Kill Tony there.
Right.
So when you listen to the show, they get about 10 comics up. They probably have like 100, 150 people sign up. So you're talking about maybe a 1 in 10 chance.
Right.
When he came to Fort Worth, he was like 45 lucky souls. And we were doing the math, it's like, it's fucking 4 of us. We're looking at like roughly 1 in 4 chance here. It's like, Jesus. And thankfully, none of us got called. Because I would have had to have gone up.
Yeah.
Because it's worse to just bail, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that being your first experience. I hear it on the show all the time where people are like, it's my first time.
Yeah.
So how was it knowing your first real comedy experience was in front of a sold out crowd with comics who were great at roasting you? And
it was a nerve-wracking thing. The interview was worse than my minute, I think, and the minute wasn't good. But I definitely felt like more of an ass in the interview part. I felt like I was trying to cornball it up a little bit more, and just getting awkward, trying to be funny sometimes.
Had you listened to a show a lot before you did it?
Not a lot, but I did.
Yeah.
I did listen to it. I did catch some episodes before I went on. So I had a minute prepared, but I still blanked in the middle of that minute.
Yeah.
And it felt like in the moment, it felt like I lost 30 seconds. And then looking back at it, I think it was maybe 3 seconds.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so strange how you'll your body tricks you so easily.
Yeah.
And it's like if you could it's easy to say, but it's like if you just stay calm and keep going, it's never as bad as you think it is.
Right.
But yeah, that's interesting.
I've learned that now doing longer sets and stuff, like and it's like you said, I did 15 last Saturday, and that was one of the more fun times I've had doing 15 and stuff. I don't do that very often yet. But I've noticed that when I do, I have a little bit more than 15 that where if I miss a joke in the middle or something like that, as long as I open with what I want to open with, close with what I want to close with or whatever, that stuff in the middle, if I miss a joke or say something that I didn't really want to start talking about or whatever, I can usually make my way back to what I was wanting to talk about.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I mean, how was your second Kill Tony experience compared to the first?
Night and day.
Yeah, because they had a great response.
Yeah,
they seemed to like you during the interview.
Yeah.
And you got to do another show with that Tony was producing, right?
Yeah.
Did you get to do that while you were there?
That was I did the very next night too. And when he was booking me for it, I was getting nervous for that.
It was like a topical thing, right? Like you just pick something out and try to go with it.
Yeah, it's a bucket full of topics, and on stage on the stool with you, and you just draw topics out of there and riff. So it was an 8-minute set of that.
Oh, what was your topic?
One of them was the first one that came out. I didn't know what it was, and I'm glad I didn't know what it was. I had a little joke about not knowing what the topics were. So that was cool. It was like, I think it was a gun law.
Oh, okay.
That I was unaware of.
Sure.
So I just riffed about not knowing what the hell's going on in society and stuff. And then one was COVID, and I got to. That's when I got back into talking about my dad and stuff with that. That was a pretty easy. Figured that would be in the bucket,
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Sounds like you had a great experience on your couple last moments in Austin down there, huh?
Yeah, it paid off exponentially right there at the end. I was signing up for 3 months, Sunday and Monday, waiting to get on either the open mic or Kill Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Monday right before we ended up moving that Saturday. So,
yeah. Are you able to keep going down there every now and then and signing up for those things?
I haven't yet. I've been doing stuff on Sundays.
Yeah, I know y'all are getting settled in around here too.
But I do definitely want to try to get on that open mic, because the open mic's more than an open mic there. It's still a paid audience. That room is super cool, and it's an open mic door guy show.
My wife and I have been trying to get tickets, and everything's fucking sold out.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I mean, and on one hand, I'm super bummed that I don't get to go, but on the other hand, I'm like, hell yeah. Open mics are sold out.
Yeah.
I would if anybody's listening to this show, they'll know that that's one of my dreams is to have any club here have their open mics like that, where people just know it's going to be worth our time. They're working on stuff. It's okay, but it's still going to be pretty good. Because I think a lot of open mic comedy around here would be more beneficial for the comics having that crowd.
For sure.
Because it's so hard to tell. I imagine it's so hard to tell that if your jokes are working to the 4 people in the room who aren't comics and aren't really sure what's going on.
I think that's a big part of comedy, is just figuring out what to do with your time at an open mic. And that's what I was learning once I got to Austin. I was like, I'm not doing this the right way. I'm not maximizing my time when I go out. I need to find a better way of what mics are good for what. Am I working on, if I'm at a club, I'm a little bit more likely to, or for an example, when I was starting, I was like, I won't use notes if I'm at a club mic. I'll use my notes if I'm at a bar mic.
Okay. Why the distinction? What do you think that why does that matter to you?
Because I still want to acknowledge that using notes is lame as hell. But I still want to, every time I still do it now. I'll bring notes up occasionally when I'm trying to make sure I work new stuff. Like luckily I left them on the table today at TK's, but I had one new joke that I really wanted to work on that I went to 2 mics yesterday and just forgot to get that joke in there because I just didn't have my notes up. And when there's something like that, I'll make a set list and set it in front of me to make sure I work some new stuff because it doesn't really flow when it's just a loose premise.
I don't mind notebooks at true open mics, right, for development. That never bothers me. But man, I'm glad to hear you say like notebooks are lame because when I see someone on like a show with a notebook, it drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's like disrespectful to the that's lame to say too, but disrespectful to the art of it or something.
I mean, kind of like, and I don't want to. I'm not a comic, so I don't want to get on any like high horse here.
It's a layer of professionalism for sure, or something.
Yeah, like as somebody who's watching it, it makes me feel like you didn't prepare.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes and if especially if I paid for a ticket, it's like, come on.
Yeah, that stings.
You know, now if you're truly like, if you're just crushing it and making me laugh like crazy and you just needed it as a quick reference, it's like, I don't even blink. It's like, that's fine. You're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it's those people who are like, what next? What next? Let's see. Oh, this is one I was working on. Let's see if this works.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like that kind of attitude. I'm just like, fuck off. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because I don't know, but I would imagine if I did do it, I would be so psyched / nervous about getting to do it.
Right.
That it just would be drilled. And I might have it there as like a safety net, but it would never be like well, what are we thinking about right now? I don't know. Your shirt's blue shirts, huh? You know?
I think there's 2 different versions of that where like, if you're at your 10th mic for the week and then you're like, man, I've really beat up the newer stuff that I thought, like, is there any loose premises? And then some people are actually kind of mining maybe, but then I think a lot of new comics see other comics doing what you were just talking about and they make that their thing for when they're thinking or they don't. So then they're at mics and they don't have anything to work on. They're just going, trying to do like that demeanor thing.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're somebody incredible, right? Like Bill Burr, or David Tell, somebody like that pulls that off, I'm going to let it slide, right?
Right.
Because you're watching masters, but outside of that, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to follow that up with some kind of comedy gold.
Yeah.
So.
It's tough to watch, and I get that too because I want to be more present-minded on stage, so I do want to see if I can get off my set list occasionally more often now. Like if I'm at a mic, maybe I'll see if I can just riff about a loose topic in my head that I really didn't have any jokes about.
Yeah.
But doing that you're probably gonna get the stairs joke at a show, you know. It's not like I'm gonna bring you the thing that I think that I'm most confident will make you laugh at a show right now.
Yeah, I was thinking about your set as I was driving up here because, and I could be wrong because I've only got to watch the longer one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I feel like you're in this fun space right now where you've got several like short, quick things because you're used to doing smaller sets where you're like, got to get it out and make some laughs now, right?
Yeah.
And then I see your longer material that I feel like you're still working on stretching when you get the longer opportunities.
Yeah.
Because I still feel like on some of your premises, I'm like, don't stop yet. Like, tell me a little more of that. Like, I want to know a little bit deeper into that layer of things. Is that even close at all?
Absolutely. I went to a writing group last night, and I don't go to writing groups a lot. It was one of the first ones I went to hang out with some comics around here, and I was saying that exact thing, that I have the problem of, or maybe not a problem, but I get out of subjects really quick because once I get the laugh, I'm like, all right, there it is. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to.
Gotcha.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to sit on this topic and like beat it up too much. I have several jokes that I have more than one joke about one topic or whatever, and at first it'll feel like I got 3 tags here that don't even really go together, but it's about the same topic. And then they find a way to kind of mesh together. I'll get rid of something that I realize, okay, it goes together now if I get rid of this line or something like that. But a lot of my stuff is really short now.
That's exciting, though. I think, and obviously so much of that is just the set you're getting, right? Like the amount of time you have to work in. I totally get that. But I would be very excited to see what you do. Like it could be a fun exercise for you to see, like, how about I only do this one topic for this full 7 minutes or whatever,
right,
and just see what you can pull out of it. Because I feel like your stories are deeper and richer than you may realize. Because like my experience from interviewing people on these podcasts and just talking to people is, your life's never. You don't think it's interesting because you've lived it, right? It's like when you watch someone lose weight It's like when you see them lose weight every day, you don't notice anything.
Right.
But if you just see someone a year later, you're like, fuck, you look great, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like that's what it is with y'all's lives, is most of y'all don't realize, like, that's a lot of really interesting shit you just told me.
Yeah.
Instead, you're just like, I mean, I don't know. It kind of is what it is, man. Like,
yeah.
we spent a whole day searching for a flashlight in a ceiling. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but it's like, that doesn't happen to the average person, right?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, I would love to see you be able to stretch some of that out. I mean, it may not work at all, but
Yeah.
I think it would.
It's something I was telling the guys last night I'm jealous of, because I'm definitely not like a storyteller yet, but growing up, I've had people tell me when I'm in that mode that, like, dude, you are a good storyteller and stuff like that. So if I don't know, maybe if I can loosen up a bit, get more into improving on topics and stuff. I mentioned that show that I did that Tony invited me on from Kill Tony was an improv bucket pool. There was a mic in Austin that I was pretty far away from everything, but Tuesday nights there was a mic that was that exact same thing. It was bucket pool topics. And so I was there more than anywhere else, and it ended up paying off for that last show, but it made me more nervous than anything else because I was so bad at it.
Yeah.
So bad at trying to riff off random subjects, you know?
Yeah. What a great exercise, though.
For sure. Yeah, loved it.
That's one of the things I love about the Kill Tony show so much is his regulars. When you watch them, you know, I mean, now he's got some people that have been funny for a while, but in the earlier days of his show, when he'd give people a chance and they're on there for like 10 weeks and writing a new minute every week.
Yeah.
And you're watching them go through this kind of intense writing exercise. And you know they're probably stressing about it for at least 4 or 5 days before that show, trying to get something. And then you realize it's like, okay, so if they were on there 10 weeks, they attempted 10 minutes of material. And then when you talk to like a local comic who doesn't do a writing exercise like that because they're not on a show, and it's like they've been working on 5 minutes for 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? And so you realize it's just this rapid pace writing exercise.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the fascinating things. And I was talking to a comic about that. I was like, you should just try to do it even though you're not on a show or anything. It's like, just write 1 minute a week. And like, you know, when a year goes by, you'll have attempted 52 minutes of material. You know?
Yeah,
and
that's great.
I mean, you know, most of it's going to suck, but you might be able to squeeze a really great 5 minutes out of it.
There was a mic that even when I wasn't signing up for Kill Tony, I would go to the mic because it was a minute mic to prepare you for Kill Tony.
Oh.
And I was like, this would be great to work on opener. It was like so people could run their mic right before run their minute before the show.
Man, that sounds like a really cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool. Whoever set that up, that's really clever.
Now it's at Red Band, or they've been doing it at Red Band's Club. Recently.
Nice. I'm glad to hear stuff like that is going through where it's like you're getting a little prep, because that's got to be daunting.
Yeah, yeah.
You're standing out in an alley now, right?
Yeah. I actually thought that mic was like, I was like, sometimes that's not a good idea because you're saying it to such a dead room of comics that your minute might discourage you before you go up in front of a full hot room at the mothership. But it is also tough to win over a Kill Tony audience sometimes. You know, you've seen a lot of rough sets on there, you know.
I think you go in there knowing you will never win them over because they're animals that want blood, right?
Yeah, they don't want you to do good. Yeah.
I've talked about it before. I loved when Jeremiah Watkins and Joel Berg and those guys were on the show because I felt like they were a really great balance with Tony and Red Band.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's worse now. I just liked having their element on there.
Like the silliness of it and everything? Or?
Yeah, and if Tony ever got a little aggressive, they could like lighten it up.
I gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
Tony's a killer, right? If he sees a little drop of blood, he's going to go. And it's like you need somebody to kind of check that every now and then just for a good ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And now it's like he's off the leash. And like,
Yeah.
and there's nobody in the band or anything who's like, cool it, man. Like he's, you know.
Nobody checks him now. There's nobody. Yeah.
No. And so now his audience is just like, it's like they're watching gladiators getting eaten by lions up there. They're like, yeah! Like they're ready for you to do horribly.
I kind of like that aspect that now that they've graduated, you could say, to the comedy mothership, that he maybe is more willing to grill people that didn't come up there with a ready minute, because that's what it's always been. If you come up with nothing, he gets really go at you.
I think that's a reasonable annoyance, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, you know, when you were in in LA in a smaller room, and he wasn't going on these world tours. It's like, I could understand if you just came in for the night and didn't know what you were getting into. But dude, if you go to the comedy mothership, it's like, you fucking know the thing here now.
If you haven't heard of the show or you act like you didn't know what it was,
on.
yeah, it'll make you look like a dick.
Yeah, and then the biggest key to that show, it seems, is always just be genuine and nice. Just don't be a prick.
I was trying so hard, like be a little bit more loose than you were last time.
Yeah.
Hopefully a little less dorky. But I was like not wanting to be combative. Like I didn't want to seem like I was being rude or like I was bros with them. Like I thought I was like, oh, we're boys now because I had an okay minute. I definitely want to come across like that and like set myself up to get grilled or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. Do you even think of any of that when you're in the moment, though? It's got to just go all out of your mind, right?
I think so. So there was a moment on that show where Brian Holtzman's sitting next to me and he said, "You look like a spy or something," and I was like, "You have just a mustache." But I could have said it punchier than I did, but in my head, I know I hesitated because I was like, is this funny or is this just going to seem defensive?
Is this the moment the crowd turns?
Yeah. You're like, oh, he doesn't like Brian. This guy's
fuck you.
Yeah. But luckily they laughed even through my hesitation, and it was okay enough. And it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was looking back either.
Yeah.
It was a little bit smoother than what I had in my head.
Yeah, I used to, my background was in music, and I have a background in audio engineering, and I love doing like live recordings of like bands and stuff like that in the past, and everyone's always like, it's probably my worst fucking show. And you're like, no, can you just listen to it?
Yeah.
And then they listen back and they're like, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was all right. It's like, yeah, everybody's their worst critic, you know. It's, the laughs are always quieter when you're on stage and all, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that's an incredible experience. It's really weird because Tony at times can be so unlikable.
Yeah.
But then you see that, you know, especially like the older days when he talked about it more. Now you kind of know what he is if you've been listening. But like in the early days, like if anybody ever heckled somebody, he'd be like, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have the balls to get up here, you keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah, he goes in on the right things.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you see like, no. If you come up here and try, the guy's got a genuine love and respect for it.
Yeah.
But you know, he's like I said, he's a wild animal if he needs to be.
It was a really small thing, but it was something me and my wife noticed while we were watching it back. That when my dad came up and stuff, I was like, "Yeah, he beat cancer like 5 times." And Ian Edwards, it was really funny. He was like, "Yeah, you only got to lose once."
yeah.
But Tony was like, he was like, "Yeah, but that's a good record if you know." And I was like, "All right." Like Tony tried to chip in, and have my back a little bit. That's something.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy because, like I said, it's easy to like him or hate him depending on how you take him, you know. Yeah. And I'm sure he's used to that by now. But
and I think I've thought this the first time I was on the show. I think he was trying to ask me questions eventually in that interview to try to loosen me up. I think you could tell I was trying to shell up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started binge watching in between the time I went up this time and the time it came out. So I watched a lot of episodes, and he said at some point, he was like interviewing someone. He goes, "It seems like you're tightening up a bit. Why don't you tell me about your sex life?" And that's what he did to me. And I was like, all right, it was a move.
As like a host, it's incredible to watch what he does.
Yeah.
Because like the first thing is just how quick he is. Mm-hmm. You know, how quick he is with his roast, his puns, whatever he's coming up with. He's very, very, very fast. But then when you realize he's digging for material the whole time, and like he really is 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. Yeah. Which is kind of fascinating. When I got to watch him live in Fort Worth, there was a girl who came on the show who had alopecia and was talking about how she was wearing a wig. Mm-hmm. And Joelberg was he was dressed up as an 80s comic, so he had a wig on as well. Mm. And the moment she said like alopecia or wig or something, it's like you could see him lock eyes with Joel and be like, give him a nod or something. And it's like they instantly clicked. And then it was like 3 minutes later, they were talking about doing like a wig swap.
Oh, yeah.
And all this. And you just saw that he just knew like, okay, that'll be it. Let's do that up here. But so he's sitting here conducting and orchestrating this stuff. But at the same time, he's really listening to you.
Yeah.
And asking you interesting questions that are trying to loosen you up. So like as a host watching another host, he's really fucking good at it.
I think that's why he gets hung up when he's like, he asks questions a lot and people will try to give a jokey answer instead of just a straight answer. And he's like, look at me, answer my question.
He's trying to help you.
Yes.
He's digging for you.
Yeah.
And that was one of the more fascinating things that I noticed, like the people who were trying to be cool or weren't listening. It's like, if you shut the fuck up, he's actually giving you your next 3 topics at your next open mic.
Yeah.
He's showing you what's funny and interesting, and you get to work on that later.
The first time I was on, had me take my hat off. I'm bald, and he had me take my hat. He was like, "You look like Demetrius Johnson." I incorporated that into some bald stuff I had, where I was like, "This." Somebody told me I look like this person. Somebody else told me I look like Demetrius Johnson. I got a little. I get laughs off of it. It's
Dude,
cool.
I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of the hate comes from. Is it's it's like Kobe in a sense. It's like when you see somebody who's good at something and is very confident, it's so easy to go like, "What a prick," you know?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's so easy to say that. But if you put that aside and you just listen, it's like, man, he's pretty. Actually, my introduction to Tony Hinchcliffe was a successful local comic. I was asking them, I was like, I keep hearing Joe Rogan talk about this Kill Tony Hinchcliffe podcast thing. You ever heard of it? I think I'm going to listen to it. And they were like, oh, it's just this like privileged white kind of suburban asshole kid who's like just ripping on open micers all the time and making fun of them. And I was like, oh. I was like, well, I'm going to check it out anyway.
yeah.
And then you hear his backstory,
Yeah,
and it's
very
totally
not
the
privileged.
opposite. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I don't know where that came from. It's like it's just
yeah.
easy to hate people, but
Yeah.
fascinating guy. Yeah, it's real interesting.
I think maybe the privilege would come. He brags too much about his Corvette and stuff. he does say the Flash, but he doesn't come from that. He's
From what I heard, he lived in his car for a while when he first got out there in, in California. So it's like, buy the fucking Corvette, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
talks about
it's not the car I want, but you know.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit. We were just talking about something I was going to ask you about, but it slipped my mind. Oh well, it'll come back. No, it's going to drive me crazy now. Fuck. What were we talking about just a moment ago?
Before, was it bald stuff? Using tags that he gives you material if you listen to him.
Yeah, bald stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
When did you commit to shaving your head?
I got out of the Air Force 2017, so it was after that.
So what, you were around like
2017, 18. Yeah, 25, 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I knew it was coming early. Everybody in my family's bald. So
really?
I knew it was coming. I shaved my head a couple times in high school just to get used
see.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I go back and forth from growing my hair out like this and then buzzing my hair down to like a half.
Yeah.
And then it's like everybody in my family loses their hair. Mine's thinning out. And so it's like, I do wonder like when I'll commit to it. But one of the things I was thinking about lately, and it's fucking crazy and stupid, and it's something only somebody losing their hair would think about, right? is I don't know why I've been fixating on this, but I've been fixating on male wigs. And it started with, do you know Jamar Neighbors, stand-up comic?
Yeah.
Like jacked black dude,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
wears
yeah.
the mohawk.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
That's a wig? I mean, it's got to be.
It's a fucking clown wig that he cut into a mohawk.
No way.
and he glues it on his head. So if you
That's
go
so
to if you go to like his Instagram and just go through stuff, some will be mohawk, some will be just straight up bald head, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think I was watching like I think it was like Despicable Me or something. One of the characters is a wig seller in this town or something for men. But I got to thinking about it. It's like the real stigma with men wearing wigs is that it's a toupee and you try to hide it.
Yeah.
You try to deny the fact, right?
You gotta go bold.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, man, think of all the women, right, who wear wigs daily. Like elderly women, young women. There's a huge demographic of women who are just like, well, fuck doing my hair. I'll just wear this wig this week, this wig next week, and so on.
Yeah.
And I was like, how many billions of dollars are there to be made in the male wigged segment if you could just take the stigma away from that somehow?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like where you weren't trying to hide it, but you were just like, I'm going to wear this Keanu Reeves, John Wick look this week. And then next week I'm going to do like, I don't know, like some kind of fade crew cut thing or something. And I talked to my wife about it and she's like, it'll never catch on. And I was like, but there's so much money to be made there. Like there's got to be a way to incorporate this.
I feel like dudes wouldn't take care of them as much. Like they'd end up getting all wonky in a few weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was just thinking more like if society would accept it.
Yeah.
You know, like, but would you, if society accepted it, would you throw a wig on?
I wouldn't.
Why not?
Right? The long answer is I always like basketball over football.
Okay.
Because they're comparable sports, but with basketball, I didn't have to throw pads in my trunk. I didn't have to like carry cleats. It was your shoes and the ball. You know what I mean?
So it's just another thing. It's an accessory.
Another wig and like.
Yeah.
And does it improve it really? Like it's
again. My thought process. It could be way off, but my thought process is if you're not trying to hide it, if you're just like, yeah, I went bald like 10 years ago. I just thought this wig looked cool.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder how, like, at first you're definitely going to get thrown looks, right?
Right.
Like, did you ever see Jason Alexander, George Costanza?
Yes.
He, as Jason Alexander in real life, was wearing, like, really high-end, I think, toupees or wigs or something for a while. But he was doing them for acting roles to be able to, to show, like, I can play these parts. We can just do this.
Right.
And like, but he would just wear them around in public anyway. Like he wasn't trying to hide it. And it's like, it looks pretty good though. Like,
that's funny. My brother-in-law actually was taught acting by Jason Alexander. He came to visit his class.
That had to be incredible.
Could we pause for a bathroom break? Is that
Yeah. No,
go
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. You're good.
I'll be right back.
All right. Now that you've ruined the show. No. But yeah. What did your brother do when he got taught by Jason Alexander? That guy's such an incredible actor.
Oh yeah, my brother-in-law, he's done like several commercials and stuff around here, and he was going to college in Oklahoma City, and he told me that they had Jason Alexander come through and like give him some lessons and stuff.
Hell yeah!
Either 1 week or one day for one of their classes.
That dude is so fucking good that he got stuck as George Costanza.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like he became that character so well that it was to his detriment later.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But man, that's incredible. All right, well, so you've kind of convinced me that the wig company's not going to take off that quick. But
not for me, but I also have a small head. I'd probably be like worried that no wig would fit. So
Did you want to take the Kill Tony advice of not wearing a hat? They seem to, I don't know why, but they were like shitting on you wearing a hat for a minute.
No, and Tony was so opposed, I don't even believe him in his opposition.
Okay.
I think it was just like
it was just
fake.
a topic.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
But I mean, the few people that have been like, don't wear that hat, I've had just as many people tell me to wear the hat. The next day at the show at Mothership, one of the photographers for Mothership and Netflix and everything told me, hey, I like the hat. And I was like, all right, cool.
I think whoever you are in the real world, if you wear the hat in the real world, then wear the fucking hat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also don't want to be the guy with the hat, but I just don't think.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you were going to put it on and wear it that day, then yeah. But I would never think like, I need to wear this on stage to project this type of personality.
Right.
Fuck all that. But yeah, it's weird. I love hats, but lately I've gotten into like I want to wear things with no logos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I realize like all my hats say something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man. I start feeling like I'm just a corporate advertisement all the time.
Exactly. And that's why I can't wear hats now, because they started making, well, that's not why, but they started making all the flat bill hats have these giant billboard-esque big box fronts. And they started making them at some point in the last like 10 years or something. They started making them even bigger, I think, because of I read that like MLB players, like the whole point was like you can see the logo in the outfield or something.
Oh,
I don't know if that was just some weird angle that
I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it. I mean,
so it is a marketing thing.
It's all like the older I get, the more I look around and you realize like everything is marketing all the time.
Yeah.
You can't buy like a quality. It's hard to buy like a quality T-shirt that just doesn't say anything on it.
It is. I'm cautious of that for stand-up. I don't really want big logos on my chest while I'm on stage and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to buy clothes I'm not going to wear on stage.
Yeah.
It's harder to find stuff.
We were going swimming, and I went to the store. My son is a redhead. He's got pale skin.
Oh, no.
And so I try to wear like long sleeve shirts with him in the pool in solidarity because he's going to have to do that for a while.
Right.
And
that's cool.
And so we were going to go swimming, and I was like, I need a new like UV shirt or whatever, And we went to like the little, it was like Dick's Sporting Goods or something, and they had a whole section of those shirts, right? And it was like brands like Columbia and other things. And I was like, all right, cool. Here's one here. This one's black. And I pull it off the rack. And it doesn't just say like Columbia right here. It's like on the back is like a mural of like fish that look like an American flag or something. It's like there's all this shit. And I was like, can I just get a plain fucking shirt? Like, why does it have to have something on it all the time?
How does it make it cheaper to add all this stuff?
Yeah. It's like just put a little Columbia logo or whatever it is and charge me the money you're still going to charge me. It's like, but everything had something on it. I was like, all right. But I know too, like I'll go back there towards the end of the summer and it'll all be sold out.
Right.
So it's like, well, what do I know? And I feel like every year I feel like I'm more of an old jaded man where it's like, why does society have logos on clothes? It's like, shut up, old man.
Yeah.
But It's the same way with hats. Like the most recent hat that I bought was like a runner's hat because it didn't have anything on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is me. And then I got a car and I was like, God, I'm getting fucking old. But yeah.
Taking the N off your New Balances and everything.
Dude, I was joking around. I went to a concert on Friday night in Fort Worth, and I messaged the guys in the band. I was like, what time do y'all start? I want to come out and check it out. And they're like, oh, we start at 11. I was like, fuck, man. And that was the first thing I said to them. Because literally the next day we had to get up and do like family stuff. I felt like Will Ferrell in Old School.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go to Lowe's. It's a big day, And that was what I messaged them. I was like, well, I guess I'll lace up my good New Balance, get my cell phone clip, and tuck in my T-shirts, my jean shorts, and like, felt so old.
Yeah.
But it's life, man. I've been embracing the aging.
Yeah, I saw you tear up your driveway or your...
Oh, dude, I'll still get down on some labor. I mean, I'll be sore. And I'll be achy, but yeah. Yeah, we had a huge, massive concrete driveway, and then like, the person who owned the house before us, I guess they just loved concrete because like half the yard was concrete.
Oh, yeah.
So the summertime was coming up, and we want to be out in the backyard like chilling sometimes, and that concrete was just like radiating heat on you all day.
For sure.
And like we tried to get people out there to bust it all up and then just like basically take half the concrete away and then pour us like a new driveway because it was all cracked and horrible.
All right.
And we couldn't even get anybody out there. Like they're so busy with like big jobs,
right,
that we're just nickels and dimes. It's like the one person who was going to come out showed up like 2 hours late and didn't even call us to let us know he's running late. And then we talked to some other people, and it was probably going to be like $10,000 to do that. So I was like, fuck that.
Dang.
And it's like, I'm definitely not going to spend $10,000 on people who can't show up on time or text me or anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I get so offended by that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then I was just like, my stubbornness, I was just like, fuck it, man. I can rent a jackhammer from Home Depot. I've always wanted to learn how to drive a skid steer. I can rent a dumpster. We can do this, And it's like, it took a lot longer. And, it's like I'm doing all the labor, but I don't know, man. It's like it's getting done. It's almost all done now. We just have 2 more things I think to do. And then, like it cost us way less. And then if any of the work's done shitty, I know who the contractor was.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But so, yeah, I can still do that. And I don't know. Do you feel like you're aging yet? Is it hitting you yet?
Yeah, for sure.
We're almost 10 years apart.
Oh, yeah, I'm 30. Yeah, 31.
31,
so
okay.
38.
38. Oh, so not almost 10, but close. Yeah.
For sports especially, I used to be a lot more active than I am now. But now I'm like, I'm not. Basketball I was never good, but I played a lot.
Yeah.
But I haven't been very active since I got out of the Air Force, especially.
I grew up playing basketball, and I still have dreams of like joining the Y, doing some like pickup 5-on-5.
I still have dreams that I'm dunking occasionally.
Oh, really? Did you dunk when you were younger? Oh,
no,
okay.
No, it's just always been like, oh my God.
You're like, I'll work on it. I'll do some squats. I'll do lots of lunges.
I'm still like, all right, I pushed it back. I said I would do it by 30. Maybe I'll do it by 35. Like, I'm not going to be able to keep pushing the date back.
Oh, man.
Just tell myself I'm going to dunk sometime.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast ever?
Yeah.
Did you listen to the episode with the knees over toes guy?
No, I usually just listen to the comics.
Okay. I'll if I remember, I'll send you the knees over toes guy. Otherwise, just look it up. But he's a guy who played like college ball on like a low level. Like he wasn't like a D1 or anything. And had a couple knee injuries, was never really that successful, and could not dunk while he was in college. And now he's in his 30s, and he does all these crazy leg and knee exercises to like basically strengthen your knee. And now he dunks.
Nice.
And he didn't dunk in college.
That's
so there
my
is
guy.
hope. There's
Yeah.
hope. You could do this, man.
Hell yeah.
And you're already slender. Like
I know. If I just add weight to just my legs, I'll be like a bird.
Yeah. How tall are you too?
5'10".
5'10"? You look lanky though. You look like you got reach.
I think I might have long arms, but I also think that's just because I have a skinny torso.
No, you got
It's like
you got 6'1" arms for sure. No, yeah, essentially. I played basketball growing up and I loved it, man. And we were in a small town. We were not good like our freshman and sophomore years. And then and it was one of those towns like you don't try out for the team. Like you're just on
same.
it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And we had one player who had like a little bit of potential. He was pretty good, and his dad really cared. So his dad was pushing him hard, and then he was like trying to drag us with him, you know? And he signed us up for these summer leagues where we would go play like against like the Super 5A schools, like the big schools during their summer leagues.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of these kids had like real college prospects. We're going to play D1, maybe an NBA player here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And we would just go and get destroyed. I mean, some of the games were probably like 110 to 25.
Yeah, man.
You know, just getting murdered. And they're dunking on you. It's embarrassing. And if you happen to score on one of them, their own teammates are making fun of them.
Yeah.
Because these shitty country-ass white boys scored a layup on you somehow. Like, fucking do your shit, man.
Yeah.
And it made us so much better. You know, so then when we came back to our little farm town, we ended up winning the district by the time we were seniors.
Nice.
So it was really, really fun, man. And it's like, I was like you. I was never good, you know, but I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was good enough to have fun, but not good enough to... If there were actual good people around, I was not good.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, I still lie to myself that, like, you know, I'll go, like, shoot some free throws every now and then or something. And it's like, I can shoot a little. And then it's like, I'll try to do a couple moves. And the ball just goes flying away. And you're like, you never had that. Why would you magically have it now when you haven't been playing for 15 years? You know. But, you know what was really fun, though, getting older, is playing in a kickball league.
Oh, I bet.
Dude, that's what you got to get in. Something like that.
I couldn't do the softball is like too much for me. I was never a baseball guy, but kickball would be a nice transition.
Softball players, like, they know how to play. So it's still like they're trying to win.
Still really competitive.
Yeah. Kickball, there's usually like one competitive person on the team and everyone else is just drinking.
Yeah.
And that was like a really good sweet spot. It was pretty badass. We had one guy on our kickball team. I joined a team of people that I didn't really know that well. Like I knew a friend of a friend who was on it.
Right.
And there was one guy who like played football at OSU or something, and he was like very intense about it. But the rest of the team was pretty cool. But he was warming up, like throwing down to first to try to get people out and stuff. And he would like peg them really hard. It's like, Jesus, dude. It's like, she's 22. You didn't have to lay her out.
Trying to dominate the competition.
Yeah. But it was awesome, man. It was pretty awesome. Now that y'all have moved back, what's the plan for you? Like, what do you think you're going to do now?
I'm going back to school, transferring. I was still going to school, went to Texas State while I was down in Austin this past semester, and now I'm transferring to go back to UNT.
What are you studying?
Electronic media.
Electronic media?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'm trying to get
Is that like what we're doing
savvy.
here? Like
essentially, I was like, what would help me the most if I got a degree? I'm really just going to school to use my GI Bill so I can get paid. I'm trying to use it as my job, kind of.
There we go.
A very low paying but very flexible thing. I can take advantage of it the right way. So it seems like the move for now. I'm trying to do comedy. Definitely going to milk that as long as I can.
So is what you're learning though in school? What was the title again? One more time.
Electronic media.
Electronic media.
So like their radio, TV.
Yeah, so that lines up perfectly with what you want to do with comedy anyway, because it's all moving to that.
Podcasting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm very not tech savvy, so I figured whatever familiarity I can get out of this program would help me out.
Yeah, it's a good move, man. I've become, just the little bit of filming I do here, and then, like I said, I have a background in audio engineering. Like I went to school for that.
Oh, cool.
And, but I've become kind of obsessed. I really want to start filming comedy stuff for locals around here. I think there's a lot of funny people who need video. And not just for Instagram. Like, I think we should be putting out 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And, you know, we don't call them specials anymore. Well, I don't know what you want to call them, but it's like there's some funny people around here who've been doing it long enough where it's like you've got material to burn and you could use this as a business card, essentially.
There should be another term for it, like not your hour special, but like a demo or a 15, 20-minute demo tape or something.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's reversed, right? Like used to you would go on a talk show and sell a bunch of tickets and then do a special. Now you put something out online so you can sell a bunch of tickets, and then hopefully get like a big special later on. And so that first step, it's like I feel like there's a lot of local people that I could help them get that done. And so now I've kind of become obsessed with how it's all filmed.
Oh, right.
Not even on like a technical aspect, just the look of it. Like that Nate Bargatze one. Like those were real interesting choices to do it in the round at what looked like. My wife said it looked like he was on an episode of The Voice. Right?
Yeah,
with
like, the
way it was done. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And I've gotten really obsessed with watching how many times they change camera views.
I've been trying to pick up on that too lately.
It's really like when you look at it, you're like, there's a lot of fucking camera switches here.
Yeah.
Because when you're at a live comedy show, there are 0 camera switches.
Right.
You're just watching from your seat. And I I don't know if it does or doesn't, because all those specials, like, I still laugh my ass off watching them. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder how much of that takes away from your performance when you got to put a camera on it and light it and figure out how you're going to display it, on a TV screen or a phone screen. Because it's totally different than just sitting in a club.
I actually got to, do you know Jay Larson? He's
sounds really familiar.
He was a Comedy Store comedian. He's from Boston, though.
Okay.
He filmed a special at Creek in the Cave when I was living down there in Austin this past year, and me and my wife went to his taping, and we were sitting right next to the stage while he did one of the tapings. And it was pretty cool. They had like a big camera, like pretty high up in the middle of the crowd and stuff, and I think at least one, maybe two people kind of moving around in the audience while he was recording. But he did one joke. He had a joke that he was kind of a staple joke that he's done for a long time. When they started the show, he came out and recorded that one joke. It was like he wanted isolated footage of it or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then he kind of was like, all right, we got the joke done, and then started the show. But it was all still very smooth. I think there's a little bit of an understanding of there's cameras here and everything, but it was still pretty smooth. And he's one of my favorite storytelling comics.
That's interesting. Has he put it out yet?
Yes, it's very good.
I'll have to go watch it then.
Jay Larson,
I mean, that's part of the problem right now. It's a good problem, is there are so many funny people putting stuff out, and it's amazing, that you have access to all this. But I've gotten real obsessed with why a comedy show in person, in a club or wherever you're at, hits so much harder than watching it on TV. Right? And it's like, I don't know that you can ever film anything and make it that good.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as like, how close can you get?
Yeah.
Because I mean, part of me wonders, like the Beastie Boys did this thing a long time ago, like before fucking smartphones, I think. They had some concert that they filmed, and they gave, I want to say it was like 20 people in the crowd cameras. Like, so you as a concert goer had the camera for the show.
That's pretty cool.
And then it was on a DVD, so there was something you could do with the DVD, like with your TV remote. Like, you could change the camera angle to whatever you wanted watching the concert. So you could just sit on one angle the whole show if you wanted to.
Right.
And so part of me thinks about, man, it would be so much fun to film something where it's like every camera angle is from a seat at a comedy show, and then maybe there's just like 6 seats you can choose from.
Right.
And then you can decide what, like you could watch the whole show from whatever camera. And I don't know. I thought just stuff like that. Like, I would love to just experiment with those things and see, does it make it better? Or when you watch it back, you're like, this was a terrible idea. Like, everything sucks.
Yeah, it might be too distracting having to like pick your camera angle. You might miss jokes or whatever when you're trying to decipher what to do or something. I don't know, but
I think the VR stuff's interesting too, because I thought, man, you could just place a I don't know how technically difficult it is, but placing just a VR like 360 camera in a chair in the crowd somewhere. And then you can just throw your goggles on at home, and like you're looking at the people next to you. Like, you can look around the club and watch it. And that might be the closest thing, to be in there.
Yeah.
But there's just something about like being, 10 feet away from you. You see so much more. I don't know what it is though.
I was thinking about that today. Like, you can pay to go see a comic on a Tuesday at a bar show or whatever, and it might be a really good show, but there's still something about being in a good room on a Friday night or whatever. And that's what you're paying for with like Mavs tickets for the playoffs. You're not just, it is higher competition and stuff, but you're there to like feel playoff energy in that room at the moment.
That's a good point. I mean? Yeah, the only playoff thing I've ever watched in person was we went to a Rangers game when they were on that World Series run.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not even a huge baseball fan, but it's like the atmosphere. That was still the most incredible sporting event I'd ever been to, because it's a sold out thing. Everybody's just swinging towels. So that is it. There's an energy in the comedy club on a Friday, Saturday night.
Because I've thought about it like your family asking you to do jokes at family get-togethers and stuff, and you're like, this isn't necessarily an inviting comedy atmosphere, and it just sounds like you're bullshitting, but it's like, it's really not the same thing as being in a tight, dark room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's the question then: is how do you get that on film?
Yeah.
I got to record a vinyl record for this band that I really like, Brave Little How, and we did like a little experiment where we rented out this cabin, and it only held like 50 people. So we got to invite like 50 friends who love the band. We set up some mics around the room and recorded it as if they were just sitting there without a PA system playing for you. Trying to do the same thing, like, does it capture it? And it's like, it gets really, really close. Like, I still think it's an incredible record. Like, I was really happy with how it came out because we just put it out on a vinyl exclusive. You can't stream it anywhere. And the idea is you listen to it from front to back. And then, like, we did some kind of fun stuff where we, like, give you instructions on, like, how to set up your lighting in your house and all this kind of, like, just dim things down, get a drink, chill out, like, stop doing other stuff, and then listen to it and try to pick up on, like you hear people opening up beer cans, and you hear the door opening when somebody's going to, like, take a piss or something, and all the little things you would hear while you're there, but it doesn't take away from it. So I was trying to that's I think where it stems from is, like, how can you film a comedy special where you get enough of that detail where it feels like you're there, but it's not distracting?
That's a pretty interesting angle because you're talking about with music and stuff. Anytime I heard a live version of a song in my car, I'd be like, next. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear the live version.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it sounds like you're capturing the cool part of that while getting non-live production value.
Yes.
I would be very interested in it. Like, you're capturing the cool part, the playoff atmosphere with the professional recording part. That seems like a nice.
I don't know that I've cracked
nice
it, but it's like I think that's the goal. Like, I think I would love to record musicians and comics, like, in that specific style.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's definitely a place for, like, a studio album, and you should 100% do that first. But then I think there should be something for your like, your diehard fans, who want, like, that cherry on top of, like, oh, did you hear this thing? Like, you could hear when he dropped the drumstick or something. I don't know. Like, how many times have you been at a concert or whatever and you saw something really cool and you're like, oh, and you can't explain that afterwards.
Right.
So I don't know. There's something real interesting about it, but I don't know. I'll be interested to see how you think about stuff like that after you finish your degree.
Oh, yeah.
How much longer do you have on it?
Quite a while. I'm in the very first part where I'm still taking prerequisite courses for the actual program part. So I've taken some stuff that's pretty cool. I took a couple things that showed me I built an HTML website last semester. So that was I think that was I don't think that part's actually super useful, but it at least got me to use some pretty basic websites that teach you how to make those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a crazy side of it all. 'Cause, like, I never would have thought, like, when this podcast started, I wasn't going to do any video at all. I was just only going to do audio.
Right.
And then you realize it's like, no, man, video's king. That's what it is, you know? And it's been so beneficial to just have little clips and everything. It's like, that's what everything's moving to, you know? And, especially with comedy, it's like, it's all clips now.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. It's pretty fascinating. What do you think are your biggest goals right now as you progress?
My goal right now, I do have a clear goal right now, and that's just to earn my own self-respect by the end of the year. Like, I mean that wholeheartedly. I feel like it's corny to admit, but it is a true goal. Like, I have been doing it a little over 2 years. I've made people laugh for 15 minutes. I'm really pumped about that, but I also know I have holes in my set and stuff that I want to get better. Like, a couple jokes, and I'm like, those are kind of easy laughs. I'm not necessarily proud of all my jokes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just do stuff that I feel like is genuine, that I'm on the right track to figure out my own voice and how I want to say things. I want to be able to generate material at the pace of a real comedian so I can earn my own respect and call myself a comedian.
Mm-hmm. As an outsider, it feels like you're hitting it, right on the head. I think one of the things that holds back a lot of our local comics that are really, really talented is the writing. And I don't talk to them, so I don't know. Maybe they're writing all the time and it's just not clicking. But it feels like that's maybe what sets us apart from some of the really big names out there. It feels like they always have new material, and it's always like really good new material. And I'm not saying that's easy. Like, I know that's difficult, but it's like, you'll see some people who've been using the same material for like 5+ years. And it's I get it. It's hard to make, but like at some point, let's keep that moving,
I do think I've noticed, and this is just my observation, I might not be right about it, but I do think Austin had less of that than Dallas. I think there's give and take in both things. I think there's give and take with everything, but in Dallas, it does seem more joke writing, and in Austin, and I'm also judging from the bottom of the open mic scene. So I'm not even judging the actual comics. I'm judging people that maybe later or whatever, where I'm judging from where I was at. But it seems like maybe that side of it is when you're a little bit more loose like that in Austin, maybe those guys will be a little bit better at finding their voice because maybe they don't have a sharp 5 minutes right now, but maybe they're getting a little bit closer to finding what they like talking about. And here it's a little bit sharper. There's like those host opportunities. There's Backdoor here where a lot of people aim to have their clean 4 minutes so they can do stuff at Backdoor.
Yeah.
But it's less
Yeah, it's
crazy.
interesting. That's another thing I think about with having clubs here, which is, as somebody who watches comedy, is hugely beneficial. And then as a comic, everything I've heard, it sounds like that's very beneficial as well as a performer.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if that makes you then think about writing your material for clubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And whether that's good or bad, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're thinking like, oh, this is how I can start hosting here, or this is how I can get these, guaranteed spots here. I was just thinking about it more when you were talking about how they're a little more loose in Austin at the open mics and maybe trying to find themselves. It's like, that's interesting. I don't have a real opinion on if it's better or worse, but
yeah.
it is interesting.
I think it's
to
better
about.
for me the way that Dallas kind of is geared to the way that it's set up and the kind of natural goals of I don't know what to call it, but the places that you can naturally branch out from here are cleaner places, Arkansas, Oklahoma and stuff. Those lower level, you need to be cleaner as a host and you're not going to be headlining when you start. So
yeah,
it makes more sense to be able to try to reel that. And I like Backdoor. I like being able to, I don't want to be a clean comic, but I want to be able to be a clean comic. I want to have clean material.
Yeah, I love Backdoor. We were talking about it before we even started the show, and I've got huge respect for Linda Stogner and Jan and them running that place.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of talking with Linda a couple times, not on the show, but just in person, and I don't know her or anything, and I don't know if she even would recognize me if she saw me again, but I do love hearing her talk because when you get to hear her logic behind a lot of that, you're like, okay.
Yeah,
and like her, from what I've heard anyway, like her goal, it's like she wants you to be good and she genuinely feels like, master this. And then if you want to be dirty, fine, you'll be incredible at it. But going dirty first and then trying to master being clean, you're not going to work. But
yeah, I agree.
It's real interesting because I'll hear her and she'll have me convinced on that, and then I'll listen to like Joe Rogan, who got similar advice when he was young, and he was like, "Fuck that! I went dirty. I'm dirty," and then he made this huge career out of it. So it's like it's very interesting. Like everybody's got great advice, and it's really about what fits best for you, I guess.
Exactly. It really is what's better for you, and I think this is better for me. I think I can cater towards that type of stuff, but Joe Rogan had a million avenues that were all aiding together to make him get where he was at.
Yeah, he's pretty unique in terms of just, UFC, Fear Factor, acting, comedy, all of it kind of coming together. He's definitely a weird example, but yeah.
I get that though. I don't think everybody should try to aim to be clean either, but I think it's a good exercise for almost anybody to be able to try to work that room. You should be able to work every room, right?
Yeah. Well, and you know how it is, like these open mics and stuff, it's like, I don't know what it is. It's probably just dudes, but so much of the beginning material is like dick joke, masturbation, all right? It's like we just all instantly go there.
Yeah.
And so that definitely makes you go, okay, we're not talking about that.
Yeah,
let's you got something deeper here to you.
Right.
It's like, oh, you took a shit in a bathroom stall next to somebody else and there was an awkward moment. All right, great.
Yeah, you want to weed that stuff out too, and that's a good part of Backdoor is that they're eliminating all the bathroom humor.
Yeah,
and stuff.
But you don't seem like you're like even through this conversation. It's like I don't think you swear a lot or anything like that, do you?
Yeah, I think I cuss a lot in like daily conversation, but I think like John Mulaney said that people think he's clean and he's not, or something like that, or somebody said that. I think it's a similar thing. Like, but I like that I don't. Like I ended on that 15-minute set you saw. I had a few dirtier jokes towards the end. So 12 minutes of that was a clean set, you know what I mean? Or the majority of it will be. I don't need to. I don't get super foul or anything like that.
Yeah.
Working on a dirty set for this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on this weekend?
Pete Young's Dark Show. Yeah.
So that's the idea for that show?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's I'm leaning towards dirty instead of dark. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I keep talking about it just because we literally just watched it last night, but that Nate Bargatze special, listening to him talk about how the word like "this sucks" was a bad word. And
right.
And then throughout his whole set, like his bad words are he's like, I mean, shoot. And you're like, but there's some charming way about him saying it where he doesn't sound like, the like, it's weird. Like I loved the Blue Collar Comedy Tour when I was younger. Thought it was hilarious. And now you watch it and you do see that there's like Cheese Factor.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then like Fluffy, same way. It's like years and years ago, I thought like, oh, this guy's so funny.
Yeah.
And he still really is funny, but you realize like, oh, I've been kind of corrupted by all this other comedy I've heard since then. It's like, this definitely feels really G-rated now.
Yeah.
But still super talented. So
yeah, I've gotten unfortunate comparisons to Nate Bargatze for sure.
What do you mean?
That Kill Tony set, that joke in his new special.
Oh,
he uses
the line is similar.
Punchline.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. I think that's just like collective thought.
Because
clearly you've been doing this joke before that. So
it is clear. Like I talked about perception earlier. If I know that if I'm just a guy that is a Nate Bargatze fan, and then I happen to catch Kill Tony, I'd be that same guy in the comments or whatever that's like, this guy stole this from Nate Bargatze.
Yeah.
But since I know I wrote that joke 2 years ago, and that joke means a lot, as like I did that joke at my first open mic, and I have the video from it. So
yeah.
It's a very different thing. But I also know like it's very easy to perceive that that's what it is. But
also like I started learning recently, like, don't worry about any of that shit anyway, because like, I wrote an article about Ralph Barbosa recently, and it's like,
I loved that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And it's like, you got to put these kind of clickbaity titles on this shit because nobody reads anything anymore, right? So it's like, you got to get them a little riled up for them to even click on it. And dude, first of all, congratulations, Ralph, because his fans are fucking loyal.
Yeah.
They love that dude. And they were
fast.
Dude, and they were like, easily half his comments who didn't read the article was like, fuck this guy, like just coming after you and like just destroying you. Like one of them saw that I was doing yard work and they're like, stick to your fucking construction job. And it's like,
that's awesome.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to read any of these comments, really.
I did. I made a Reddit just to be like, he did not steal this joke. Like,
did you for real?
I did.
Oh, that's
the
fun.
few comments that I saw, because a buddy messaged me and was like, dude, they're loving you in the comments. And I saw those, but I also saw the few that were like, this guy stole this joke from Nate Bargatze. And I was like, no, he didn't. Like, I just tried to keep a short sentence, so if anyone else sees it, they at least see that I acknowledge how similar it is, but I did not steal it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get in a back and forth with anyone, but
maybe you should. Maybe that's how we just launched this career right now. It's like
well, I saw a comment and I told my wife, I was like, I'm really having trouble not responding to this. Like, I'm going to have to defend myself at some point. Like, even just because if someone sees that this guy posted it, they're going to think that. So I went down the rabbit hole and I commented on there. And he commented back and he goes, yeah, right, dude. You're telling me you came up with one of the best jokes as one of the greatest ever. And I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't respond to him, but it was like I was like, I at least acknowledged it and I know you're wrong. You're just stubborn now. You're not even going to hear me out. And I had the similar experience with my first actual heckler at an open mic. I went and addressed him afterwards. And I was like, hey, what was the problem with my jokes? And there's some of them were about religion and things like that. And he was like, you can't say this. And I tried to break it down with him, and I just learned that he was unreasonable. I was like, all right, man, well, I hope you still have a good time. And we ended it pretty peacefully. And about an hour later, that guy got kicked out of the bar because he was a drunk asshole.
He's an ass.
I was like, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, and that's like, the better you get, the more of that you're going to get anyway.
Yeah, I can't keep entertaining it, but early on, I think it was good to check.
But that's a good way to learn about it, too. Like, to go try to understand, like, what was it?
I can't let it eat me up, at least. Yeah.
Man. So what was he heckling?
It was a joke. I don't even do I don't do it anymore.
But like what was the type of stuff he was saying to you?
I don't even remember because he was it was a real shotgun style Korean restaurant and he was in the very back. And he was there with one of his buddies and I mentioned I was making fun of Christian haunted hell houses.
Oh,
Christian Halloween houses.
Yeah.
So he heard me making fun of Christians is what he thought. And I was like, dude, I am Christian. I'm going to make fun of what I have, my own experiences. Like I'm going to talk about just trying to get him to explain. I didn't even say anything malicious, but that's how I learned, dude. He wasn't hearing it. He was just a stubborn guy.
Yeah. One of my nightmares when I was still single was like the girl I'm on a date with is going to be a heckler. Like that was one of my giant fears.
Yeah,
of like,
yeah.
please God, don't let this person.
Yeah. Would that if it was early on enough, would that ruin the relationship for you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it would have to be the most innocent heckle that they didn't realize they did.
Yeah.
Like if they just said something to me, like if they were like, "Oh my God, that's so funny" or something, and it was too loud, and you were just like, "Thanks, yeah, I know." Like I don't know, something like that. I'd be like, "Hey, just be,"
Yeah.
But like a true heckler, it's like the date would probably be over right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it says so much about you that you need to be the center of attention, and you need to interrupt this person's thing.
You don't value other people.
Yeah, you can't just chill out and be, it's like I've been at plenty of shows in the front row where somebody will like mention something or like get a little jab at you or whatever. And it's like, you just smile and laugh, raise your drink or something, like whatever. And it's like, it's just a show. They don't mean anything by it. So just roll with it, And yeah, it's like one of our family members was, we found out they're a heckler. And I was like, oh, bro, don't do that. Yeah. They almost got kicked out of a show for filming the whole set on their phone.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
And it was with like a very famous person.
Oh.
And like the very famous person like called them out in the middle of the show.
Wow.
And then they tried to film it again. And it almost got kicked out. And it's like, oh my God. I was like, and they still didn't understand like you're breaking the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
They were still like, I mean, I like them. I want to watch it later. And it's like, I know, but you just can't. Like,
yeah, there is aspects that I understand that are like hard to get, because I've at open mics, I haven't had it at shows that I know of, but open mics have been like, please don't record this while I'm doing my worst jokes. Like, this isn't something I want on the internet.
Yeah, I am very fearful of getting caught at clubs because like I'll record stuff all the time, but it's just to recall. It's just to like. Right. It's like if I'm going to write something, if I'm going to interview someone, it's like I will never, ever release stuff. And then it's deleted later, right? It's like instantly gone. But I'm so worried somebody's going to come by and be like, the fuck are you doing over here? Like, and I'll be like, no, I do a podcast.
I probably feel the same way at mics or wherever, and like trying to take a picture of my buddy, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone knows that I'm.
Oh, man. I mean? Yeah, I've tried a couple times to get a cool picture of someone's set where I'm just like raising up the phone, like, just do a quick picture. Like if I write an article, I want to have a fun picture.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ugh. I was on one of the shows I was watching one of the shows that Ralph dropped in on while he was in town.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I got to snap a picture. This will be great. And then you're just like, there's no way to do it where I don't look like an asshole. We better not do this. And the moment you try to take that picture, I'm going to be like the almost 40-year-old whose light is on the phone.
Oh, yeah. Like, hold on, it's that stupid live thing. And you
sorry. Keep telling your jokes.
What show were you able to catch?
With Ralph Barbosa, the drop-in. We were watching. What was the guy's name? Shit, he's from out of town. I went to go watch Denise Lee, who was on the show, and she opened for him. Sorry, I'm just going to look it up real quick because apparently he's very popular. And
yeah, I've heard he's dropped in on a few, and as soon as he slaps his name on, they're hard to get tickets for.
Yeah, I don't know that he announced this at all. Sammy Obeid?
Okay. Cool.
I think he's like a writer or something on a lot of shows. He was funny, like he's a very funny guy. I just didn't know him, but he sold out the room, and Ralph announced that he's got something lined up for Netflix now.
Yeah.
So I think we were watching him working stuff out for that, which was kind of fun,
yeah.
I remember some of the jokes, and his was the only set I would be like, I'm not even going to record this because like he's not coming on the show. I'm not doing anything. And I would never want anything to accidentally get out that he's working on for like a big deal. You know, like if I just accidentally sent something or it's in the cloud and somebody hacked it, I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to fuck up his career. But yeah, I mean, he was working on some stuff, and I feel like I'm going to see it on a special, and it's going to be really, really interesting.
That'd be pretty cool.
I won't say anything about it, but he had a great bit that I hope makes it about babies should be more aware of their first impressions. And it's like, that's all I'll say about it. And it was fucking, it's like so clever. And it's like it's one of those great things where it's like, it's right in front of you and you never put those things together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I hope you polish that out however you want to,
For sure.
Do you have any bits yet that you feel like you're super proud of? I know we talked about the stairs one.
Yeah, that one. Not that I'm super proud of, I don't think.
Yeah.
I have some stuff that I would be proud if I could finish it and make sure it works. I have a couple premises that I like that I haven't feel like are finished yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some are touching on religion a little bit. I guess I don't really feel like I mock religion, but I make fun of some angles of it because I grew up in it and different versions of it.
I think it's important too, man. Like I said, I was kind of dogging on it earlier, but I think religion is really important when it's done the correct way.
It has to be Jesus challenges religion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it has to be done to an extent for sure.
It's like the little shit. It's like, I don't believe that like Noah's Ark was a thing. You know what I mean? It's like, I think these are all stories and lessons that people are taking way out of context, just fables and stuff to like teach you a lesson,
Gotcha.
And then people just really run with that shit. Cause it's like, many of these stories can be traced back to different writings that weren't in the Bible, and the characters had like different names and there were details that were altered. And it's like we took stories from other things and we're trying to teach same lessons to other people, and some people took it way too seriously.
Right.
But I love astronomy. I love things about the universe, and the universe is really, really trippy. Like as far as we know, anywhere you go outside and look, there is no ending to it. It goes on for infinity.
Right.
That's fucking wild. And and so a lot of the faith you have in things like studying the universe, which is obviously it's based in science, but it's just as mysterious as someone's religion.
Yeah.
So it's like it'd be really hypocritical to be like, nothing you're saying is true and you're a fucking idiot. When it's like we don't know any of that other stuff out there either. It's like you very well could find the edges of the universe and go, holy shit, there's a fucking white dude with a beard up there.
Yeah.
It's like probably not, but you can't say 0% chance.
Right.
So I keep a pretty open mind on both ends. I wish they would just merge together and just, figure it all out.
I do think a lot of things, and I don't think anyone should listen to me for sure. Anything figured out, but I think there's a bigger gap between like metaphors and reality than what people give credit for. You know what I'm saying?
No, what do you mean?
Like, I think, for Noah's Ark as an example, I think maybe there's a lot of loose terminology and stuff where maybe there was a boat, and maybe instead of every single animal that's ever been, maybe it was two of each kind, and then evolution restarted from there and things branched off. Or maybe we think of time in a weird way. I don't know. I'm obviously not well versed in either realm.
I think about the time thing because time is very relative, and your experience of time is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things they still study all the time. So like if you look at it from like physics, like real scientific standpoints, time is affected by the speed at which you travel and how much gravity is affecting you. So if you are on a planet with more gravity, your time will run differently than someone else's on a planet with less gravity. So I believe if you have more gravity, your time moves. I get it a little confused, but like if you could sit next to a black hole, and just like they did in that movie with Matthew McConaughey, if you could sit next to a black hole for 10 years, then something like 1,000 years might have passed by on Earth because the gravity is so strong that it's affecting time.
Right.
Also, if you travel at the speed of light, your time slows down. So if you could travel at the speed of light, time stops completely. There is no time. So if you traveled half the speed of light, your time would slow down so much more than mine. So you would essentially be traveling in the future. Because if you just flew around at half the speed of light for like a year or two and then you came back to Earth, it might be, I don't know the actual math, but it might be like 10,000 years in the future.
Right.
But you'll have only been out for 10 years.
Right.
And so that's a real thing. So like the first thing I thought about is, when they talk about this was made in 7 days, right? Or 6 days and the seventh day was rest.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, on a cosmic scale, a day for whatever created it all could be very different because our day is just one lap around or one revolution, the Earth spinning one time, right? And then our year is just one lap around this sun. So everyone's years would be different depending on like which star or things you grew up on or near. And so, I don't know, it's interesting to think about time, like people's times in these ancient writings could have been different. Because time can be different. So it's like, I don't think there were people living till like 600 or 700 years old back then, but I don't know. I wasn't there either.
Maybe they weren't counting November.
Yeah,
Like,
right. I don't know. I never want to tell anyone like you're an idiot. You know,
Right.
I just don't want people like. I just wish that a lot of religious people would also be more loose with it and go like, yeah, you know, we're trying our best. We're trying to figure it out just like you are.
Right.
You know, and like just trying to be better.
That.
And so
I think that I've been not going to church like when people ask me if I'm religious, I do typically say yes because I get what they're asking. You know what I mean? I don't want to give my whole
yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Well, it's more like a spirituality. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
But I do think when people are like, "Are you Christian?" I do want to explain what I believe instead of just giving a yes or no typically. But I also know like nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to.
Yeah, it feels like people only ask about that stuff to tell you their opinions about it anyway.
Right.
You know,
right.
It's I don't know. It's like people who want to talk to me about the religion, I have no interest in talking to them. But people who don't talk about it and are religious, it's like I do want to ask them questions. You know what I mean?
Since I've been separated from kind of I went to a little private school that was a Baptist school, and then the churches I grew up in were Pentecostal. So I had a lot of questions growing up about the
you were in the wild
of,
churches.
Yeah. There weren't like, people think snakes and stuff. I wasn't in like snake throwing, but there was like, it was wild. They did speaking in tongues on, it was a lot of late services and stuff like that. Like Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, like very, I thought that was very typical. I thought all my friends were in church all week. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Pentecostal.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I dated a girl in high school who lived next to a Pentecostal church, and that was one of the first eye-opening things is like when you're, you know, like I'm leaving her house after we were like watching a movie or something, you know, and they're there, like they're having a service, and you're like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. But yeah, it's, I don't know. Denominations in general are really silly to me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's clearly just someone had a disagreement over how to interpret it, and it was like, well, I'll make my own version of how we interpret it this way.
And that's essentially, I don't want to give away my own stuff or whatever, but I'll talk about cowboy churches and stuff because just the name of that is so damn ridiculous to me that it's insulting to what denomination is. We branched that far into splitting.
Yeah.
Stuff like, I get there's also maybe an avenue that you're inviting people in for it. Church is ultimately about community, is what I feel like I've learned to understand in the past few years. And if you're bringing community to people that wouldn't essentially go look for it like that, then that's cool. But it's also dumb and hilarious.
One of the guys I had on here, this guy Corey, who's in a band called Brave Little How, and he was talking about his dad, who was like, I can't remember if it was just alcohol or drugs, but he had some kind of substance issue, and it was becoming a big problem. It was drugs too, because he was talking about doing acid, and it took him joining a community like that to just have something to get him clean, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I respect all that, you know. I think those are the finer points of it all. It's just we all know what it is. It's like when you're duping people out of their money, when you're getting involved in too much politics and all that. It's like I like my little small town, there weren't that many people out there, and it feels like there's a church like every mile.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are there this many out here? And it's one thing if you have like your community church that, you know, helps people, helps the community, does all this stuff, then it's like, I'm all for every bit of that. But it's when it becomes bigger. Like I have a deep disdain for these big mega churches. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know, or I don't mean to.
No, you're good.
Do you know of Watermark Church here in Dallas?
Yeah.
So I used to go there, and I've heard some people that like had some oppositional stuff too, but I know some cool stuff that they do. Like my buddy was telling me he went to a free clinic, and he's like, dude, I've been telling everybody about this clinic. And then he told me about it. I was like, dude, I used to go to that church. Like that's the
one right over off like 635 and 75 area, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they have like their buildings are I'm suspicious just looking at their buildings. It's so weird.
Yeah. And it's like it's definitely not right of me to just prejudge, but the moment I see something that big, like the bigger your cross is outside, the more I'm instantly like, fuck that place.
Yeah. I wonder how it all works, but I know they do. I know they do a lot of good. I know they do. They might be corrupt as hell. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying I don't know them personally.
I know what you mean. Well, like I wouldn't want to be judged on the surface like that, and I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I know it's a hypocritical view.
Yeah. And there's also definitely 100% a lot of assholes that go there because there has to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and yeah, like for so many people, it's the social thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to this church and make acquaintances with these people, and this will elevate my social status.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all that stuff.
And even I used to think of it as like I would not get bitter or anything. I don't think. I didn't like leave the church. I just kind of got lazy and quit going and separated myself. I don't go as consistently now, but still consider myself religious. But I think a big part of what turned me off was not really knowing the point of it. And like I said, community is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think like I used to think of people as like you think of holy rollers or whatever in church and stuff. But it's also a lot of people that are just trying to be better. So they're not in the moment. And I would not show up because in my head I would feel like, maybe this isn't the community for me because I don't feel like I'm on the same wavelength as everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's kind of the point is like we're all aiming at the same, if you're all trying to be not religious or Christian, but if you're all trying to be Christ-like, I think that's a pretty good thing to be aiming for together.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to sell you anything.
Let's go to church, man. What are you doing? What are you doing this weekend?
No watermark on Tuesday, dude.
Oh, my wife, she would probably think I was fucking with her if I was like, we're going to go to church this Sunday. She would love it, but the whole time we're driving there, she'd be like, what's your angle?
It's for the podcast? Or
right.
Segment?
Yeah, I don't know. I do want to, I think I want to go experience some Buddhist temples and see what's going on there. Something about that I really like, and I think it's because they kind of keep to themselves.
Aren't you? Didn't you say you grew up like towards Nevada? Or is that
Nevada and Copeville?
Isn't there a really big Buddhist like field or something out? I feel like I drove through there and I saw like a really big.
It might be new. I haven't lived out there in a very long time.
Oh, okay.
But
this is a couple years ago. I think I drove by.
I don't know if they're. Like in all those small towns, there's like weird, quirky things that are always around, and sometimes you just never notice, even though you know everything in your small town. It could be one of those things. Like I'm trying to remember. Now that you're mentioning it, it sounds really familiar, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like they're always so nice looking. There's always like a park outside.
Well, and I've worked I've had coworkers in the past that are Buddhist, and like. They don't bring up their religion at all.
Mm-hmm.
They never try to give you a sales pitch.
But
if you talk to them about it, they'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Yeah.
And I was like, what about like money and stuff? And they're like, no, we don't worry about the money. I was like, oh, I mean, if you want to give us money, you can give us money, but we don't. I was like, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seemed more like we're here if you want it.
Yeah.
And I liked that vibe a lot rather than, like join now. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I'll get you out of here. It's been super great to finally chat to you. But like I said, I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple of years because I've kind of seen this very slight. Like I see you in these chunks. Like I'll see you here, and then maybe like 6 or 8 months later. And it's been really fun to watch your progression, man. I'm really excited to see where it goes.
I've been a big fan of the show. I'm really thankful you had me on.
Thank you so much. Where do you like people to follow you at? Do you like Instagram? What do you like? What's your favorite?
Instagram really is I'm on Facebook too, but I don't get on it I try to stay off of it, honestly.
Yeah.
But Instagram at SWINDE11. Yeah, Swindell with an 11 at the end.
There you go.
Yeah.
And now that you guys moved back, are you primarily going to be working a lot in Dallas or Fort Worth? I can't remember where you said you live, but are you going to be hitting up both cities as much as you can? Or
Yeah. I'm usually out in Fort Worth for their Thursday thing and everything.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to get it everywhere out as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you ready to start getting out on the road a little bit? Or
I'd love to. I'm going to Oklahoma for the first time to perform this Sunday.
Oh,
so that'll be
where at in Oklahoma?
Zuma?
Yeah. I don't know much about Oklahoma. I'm still
Oklahoma
learning.
City, but the bar is called Zuma.
Zuma.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, good luck in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Thanks.
And
yeah.
I guess we'll keep up on you, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.